for sustainability. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, I would also like to thank Queen Mary University of London for hosting this important venue. I would also like to thank those who are present physically and online. Let me first, introduce you to my presentation today. My presentation today will be simply showcasing the role of a university. Because let's not forget about the fact that, besides higher education and graduating employable students, we should also make sure that we do have an impact within the society where the university is located in. And that's why one of the very first actions that I did, Professor Alam, when I joined the American University of Ras Al Khaimah, was to apply to the 4GU, or the fourth generation university, which measures how much impact you have within the region where the university is located, because this is majorly our concern. So let me just introduce you to, does this move? How can I change the slides?
I don't know if it would just be click instead. Oh, it's click instead.
Just click?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. So when we think about United Arab Emirates, the very first thing is eventually oil and a somehow deserted area. And this is not the case in Ras Al Khaimah, by the way. Ras Al Khaimah has such a rich history, which goes back to 7,000 years old. It has a very biodiverse system, as you can see from the picture. Mountains, which is Al Jais mountain that goes to an altitude up to 1,900 meters. So this is where Ras Al Khaimah is located up north. Okay, so right before the tip of the Strait of Hormuz. Ras Al Khaimah also has a lot of plans to develop ecotourism, and too many future plans, as you can see, in order to have what we call RAK Central, or the new downtown of Ras Al Khaimah. It's now buzzing, it's in construction, all the plots were actually sold, and there will be a new gaming skyscraper, as you can see. So a lot of development is currently happening or taking place in Ras Al Khaimah. Now, if we look at the breakdown, again, Ras Al Khaimah doesn't depend on oil. It's 28% of its economy, of its GDP, which totals 12 billion US dollars, are focused on manufacturing. Ras Al Khaimah has the largest ceramic manufacturing plant. It's also having not only heavy, but also lean kind of management. It also depends on 18% on retail, finance, government services, and so on and so forth. So we're looking at a very diversified economy. And on top of this, we should also acknowledge the fact that RAK Vision 2030 and 2040 focuses on innovation. And this is where we need to step in. So the very first thing that we've done at the American University of Ras Al Khaimah when I joined the university was to, gather a group of key members and come up with a new strategy, because our major focus was to ensure a complete alignment between the university and Ras Al Khaimah vision. And this is actually what we did. So I'll spare you all these details, but you can see the sustainability efforts by Ras Al Khaimah in terms of usage or reliance on 20% renewables by 2040, and cutting down or increasing the efficiency, the energy efficiency by 30%. Now, this is where, again, our role as a university will eventually come to. That's why we came up with a new vision that you can read here. So to be a globally recognized university, shaping future-ready generations through education excellence, through innovation, in addition to lifelong learning for societal impact. So societal impact not only is in our vision, but also in our mission after having revised, again, the strategy, which is, again, to prepare future leaders, because those future leaders should be prepared Well, by meeting the current challenges, which is through, once again, a student-centered education that bridges both academia and industry, advancing research and innovation to drive lasting societal impact. And we came up with a tagline. Tagline is simply our life-changing education and a global impact. Now, we also have identified 6 core values. And those 6 core values are majorly on academic excellence, integrity, and so on and so forth. But more importantly, you can see that sustainability is part of the efforts that we are striving to eventually achieve. And we also have identified what we call our aspirations with an acronym. I like acronyms, by the way, so INSPIRE. INSPIRE here stands for Institutional Agility and Excellence. The N letter stands for National and International Academic Visibility. Being student-centric is one of the most important things that we believe in, and pioneering industry engagement, innovation, and research, in addition to, once again, environmental and sustainability. So we do have a major focus on sustainability in our DNA, in our ecosystem. And this is what I will be showing you. We have identified 9 goals: increasing the student body, being innovative academically, being student-centric, eventually adopting digitization. And I'm going to show you some of the projects which have been done by our students in order to adopt technology and to digitize, enhancing the teaching quality, not only by words, not only by technologies, but also by making sure that we do have a professional development program that takes care of our faculty as well. Because if you want to improve education, you must also focus on upgrading and upskilling the faculty and the staff, in addition, of course, because they are going to be the ones in charge of delivering these new technologies, these upskills to our students. Academic visibility, having more partnerships and community engagement, promoting the high-impact research, and once again, goal number 9, once again, on sustainability, reducing our carbon footprint. And we have done a lot of efforts in order to meet this goal. So what is the interplay here between Ras Al Khaimah as an emirate and AURAC? And this is where you can see that there is quite an alignment which has been done in order to meet and to be part of that success story of Ras Al Khaimah. First of all, we aligned all our academic work, our academic efforts, in order to, once again, be the key drivers of innovation, technology, renewables, in terms of research, for instance, and to have a sustainable campus. So in collaboration with Iraq municipality, we have installed solar panels in order to reduce and increase the energy efficiency and reduce our reliance on conventional electricity, for instance. We have installed some smart devices in order to control not only the temperature of our AC systems, but also our electricity. So we've done a lot in order to, once again, increase the efficiency, and in order also to promote what Iraq Vision is about on campus. How do we measure sustainability? Obviously, by looking at rankings. And here, don't get me wrong, we don't look at rankings as, our objective. We look at it as a result. We look at the metrics. And this is what I'm going to be showing you. So now we're 9th in sustainability in the UAE. Just to give you an idea, there are 173 universities in the UAE. Again, 173 universities in the UAE. Last year, there were 160-ish. All right, so every year there is more universities in the market. And those universities are not only local universities, too many international branches, reputable, highly ranked international branches across the UAE. So just to give you an idea about how the market is defined in the UAE, okay? Because keep in mind that we, the UAE Vision 2071, has a goal which is doubling the population of the UAE. Currently, the population is 11 million. And in 2071, the goal is set to reach 22 million, okay? So again, we look at the metrics, and this is how we measure whether we're doing really fine or not. And as you can see, between 23 and 24, we've done so much. We've put so much effort in order to reach those sustainability goals and in order to, once again, prove the concept and be a role model in RAC. When we look at the SDGs, so as identified by THE Impact, you can see that we have 4 major SDGs that constitute 61% of our work. First of all, it's the quality education, the affordable and clean energy, industry innovation and infrastructure, climate action, in addition, of course, to partnerships for the goal, which is the SDG 17. So this is what we have achieved, and we're not stopping here, because the idea is, once you put a strategy, you want to execute it. And since we have major components in our strategy focused on sustainability, we want to be really, once again, aggressive, ambitious, and try to reach better, much better goals. So in terms of quality education, just to give you an idea on what we have done, we have been able to transition fully to electronic systems. Not only that, 13 senior projects. By the way, the University of Ras Al Khaimah was the first university in the UAE to offer a bachelor's degree in artificial intelligence, not computer science, AI, okay? And then the universities followed suit. I probably didn't tell you about ARAC. We have 3 schools, obviously, engineering, which makes up 60% of our total student body, in addition to the School of Business and the School of Arts and Science. We're very much technologically oriented. Let's put it this way. And 13 projects were developed in coordination with all the units from across the university in order to digitize their processes and add the AI component to it. And guess what? We've implemented those students' project in every single aspect of our operations, whether it comes to scheduling, registrar, IT, finance, and no one, when we saw the end result of those projects, no one could even imagine that these were done by senior students. This is how ambitious and good the students are. Not only in ARAC, by the way, you'll be astonished by how much technologically oriented and humanely oriented these generations are. And this is what we should cope to, by the way, okay? Let's look at ourselves. When did we graduate? We graduated 20 years ago. If you're my age, more than that, I will not disclose this information, but once again, this new generation is at the forefront. If I need now any help, I would ask my kid, who's 15 years old, to help me out whenever it comes to any technological-oriented issue, okay? They will be teaching me on where to go in order to find that information, on how to do research. So once again, this is where we need to upskill, unskill, reskill ourselves before we do this to the students. And this is my message today, because if you want to be impactful, this is what we should think about: lifelong learning. Our course structure contains 12% of SDG 4 in quality education, and eventually our research publications, well, we have about 34 research publications which cover the SDG 4. These are the 13 projects, and you can see that they span from governance all the way to adoption of different operational projects at the university level. Now, those, by the way, projects were so successful that several entities, public entities from Ras Al Khaimah, requested us to help them out by having some interns, some of our students to develop projects like those projects, okay? Just digitization and efficiency-focused projects using AI and using the latest technologies. When it comes to SDG 7, you can see that over 200 research publications, they actually met or they were completely aligned with SDG 7. In addition to eventually We have a lot of effort in terms of research in wind, solar, in addition to desalination as well. We offer two programs in sustainability and renewables, one at the master level, and the other one is a concentration and a micro-credential. And 28% of our courses are mapped with, once again, the SDG 7. When it comes to industry innovation and infrastructure, we have a lot of interaction and collaboration with industry. But there are two entities in Ras Al Khaimah which are free zones. One is called RAKEZ. RAKEZ is RAK Economic Zone, and the other one is RAK ICC, or Innovation City. Just to give you an idea, there are 42,000 registered companies in RAKEZ. RAK ICC is supposed to be the new mini Silicon Valley in Ras Al Khaimah, because if you want to double your GDP, you saw that the projected growth in the next 3 years for Ras Al Khaimah is 4%. But the efforts currently by His Highness is to actually improve this. And the best way to improve it is through high tech. And this is where you actually need to have and establish companies which are dedicated to high tech. This is where the Innovation City is stepping in. And this is what we're trying to do now, partnering not only with the economic zones, but also with, once again, companies, especially driven in high technological fields. So for SDG 9, for instance, you can see that we have around 100 research papers. We're a small university, by the way. We only have 1,500 students, less than 100 faculty. Total number of faculty and staff is about 234. Okay, so this is a select university, real American, because we are accredited by SAC-COC, which is the American accredited. But again, it's like, if I may call it a boutique university, okay, for the selected group. And we have over 60 nationalities, since we were talking about nationalities, Professor Alam. 20% of our students are transnational students, so they live on our campus, whereas 30% are Emiratis, and about 50% are actually long-term expats living in the UAE. So we have quite a diverse pool. And most of them, once again, are technologically oriented. This is our strong point, our students. Last week, I actually inaugurated the first research consortium at the School of Engineering and Computing Science. And I'll tell you what, over 120 students signed up to do research with faculty. No bonus, no extra credits, only driven by their love for research, simply. Okay? So once again, let's not underestimate the students' body. Okay, let's not underestimate that. We are at a point now where we have to look at their skills and probably appreciate their motivation as well. So typically, 5% only are mapped to this SDG, and we have 10 programs which are technologically related, because not only we have engineering, we also have biotechnology and clinical psychology offered, in addition to business analytics at the School of Business. We have 7 international parents with many international partners, in addition to too many sustainable practices as well. Okay, so these are the parents, and you can see that they span from governance and policy all the way to high-tech themes, like, for example, medical devices and sensors, like, for instance, for farming, using the drones technology for farming and improving agricultural activity, or machine learning and cloud computing, and so on. Well, in terms of climate action, once again, this is completely aligned with Ras Al Khaimah as an emirate. So we do have a research center called RAK-COC, which is on the climate, on actually outdoor comfort. It's the RAK Center for Outdoor Comfort. The idea is very simple, yet very complicated, because, around 8 to 9 months are extremely hot in the UAE. So the idea is, how can we lower the temperature while we're outside? Okay, so and this is a research center whose objective is to provide a sustainable technology that lowers the temperature by 5 to 10 degrees. Okay, using what we call the misting in addition to controlled AC system while outside, while outdoor. Okay. So we have a lot of collaboration in terms of recycling and responsible use. In collaboration with RAC municipality, we sort all kind of waste on our campus. And once again, we're a leading example when it comes to this effort. Besides, of course, the research publications which are related to climate action, and they exceed 71 research papers in the past 5 years. In terms of partnerships, again, we have over 100 active partnerships. Okay, over 100. Once again, we have less than 100 faculty members. So, which means that every faculty member has at least one active partnership. We do have a very strong collaboration with the public and private sectors, in addition to over 136 publications in partnerships or that map to partnerships. Okay, here are the partnerships within the UAE in addition to internationally. You can see that in terms of international collaborations, we're not restricted, although we're an American university, we're not restricted to the US or to the EU or the UK, but we also have too many active partnerships in Hong Kong, in Austria, France, in Kazakhstan, in Malaysia, in Oman, etc. So regional and international as well. But again, our ambition is to have more and to achieve more. And that's why our focus is on these 5 SDGs, because they constitute our strength, our strong points. So what we're actually looking at is to increase the number of publications and to go from 61% coverage to 80% within the next 3 years, okay? To have a program alignment by 2028 as well. So ensuring that those SDGs are mapped to our courses. And we will do this not only on paper. We want to ensure that we do have those SDGs, you know, as part of our curriculum. And for instance, when it comes to SDG 4, for example, in quality education, we have set a target to reach a 30% course alignment of this SDG to our courses, 50% of research output, in addition to adding 2 new micro-credentials per annum, you know, by 25, 26, 27, and reaching those 6 then micro-credentials related to quality education after 3 years from now. I forgot to tell you that we're so ambitious that usually any university would put a 5-year plan. We cut it down to 3, and we doubled the number of goals, okay? And by the way, those micro-credentials, they're already set. We're gonna start not next year, but as of the spring. This is how aggressive we are, because guess what? Previously, we used to give ourselves, in order to develop a curriculum, 2 to 3 years. This is not the case anymore. We have to adapt to what's happening. We have to be resilient, but also we have to gain adaptability. So that's what we're doing. Oops. I have no idea. There we go. Oh, yeah. In terms of SDG 7 on affordable clean energy, so we want to integrate 35% of our curriculum and map it, 30% increase in publications, and 1 additional new program will be introduced in clean energy as well. Whereas in SDG 9 on industry and innovation, we're planning to have a 10% curriculum mapping and integration, double the number of patents from 7 to 14, and eventually have 5 additional projects per school, so 15 total every year, by the way. In terms of climate action, we want to integrate all our courses and make sure that there is at least 1 topic which is related to this sustainability development goal. General education courses will, or 50% of our general education courses will actually be containing some content on sustainability, and 40% increase in our research output will also be on climate action, in addition to, once again, reaching a 15% carbon reduction in order to meet the 2040 RAC vision. For the partnerships, we're looking at 30% partnership growth within 3 years, in addition to, once again, 3 partnerships per school, so 9 per annum, and to expand our global presence in order to be not only visible, but also impactful. And eventually to collaborate, to come up with joint initiatives. So this is where you're all welcome to collaborate with AURAC. We have a small number of faculty, but they're all research-driven, highly dedicated. And as I was expressing, the School of Engineering only has now 100 or over 120 students, senior students who are all active in research, and they're working with over 27 faculty members under different topics and different projects covering those SDGs. This is AURAC in a nutshell. And one last, thought. Once again, no matter how we go globally, no matter how we become visible, we must not forget that a university must be impactful within its boundaries, within the society. So societal impact is extremely important whenever it comes to delivering our mission. So be global, yet don't forget to be impactful in your society, because this is where everything begins, and this is how we can eventually, upgrade, upskill once again, and advance the society where the university is located. Thank you so much. I'm actually so much now late for my second, but thank you so much, Professor Ayan.
Thank you very much. As wonderful, as exciting as we expected, and you'll always do that. But 2 things, because of the time, we will give you your certificate, and if you give us another 2 minutes, because we don't want you to make the group picture, we'll take the picture here just because of you. Normally we go outside to show the logo and so on, but because of you, we will do it here.
Thank you so
much. Let's sit here. Thank you very much. And now you're going in the high league of, we have something in WSD, who is who? SDGs, who is who? Okay. One of them, I think you will be in the Vice Chancellor, leaders, blah, 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 and also keynote speaker. So that's a privileged club. You are already there.
The next slide is your friendship.
So now, what is the best way to take the picture here in the group? If you can all come quickly, so we can let him go. He's going to another conference, and he promised to join us for dinner, right? Yes, quickly. If you can all come, yes, please, yeah. Can you all need it here or not need it here? You need to have some chairs. Can you all come quickly? Yes. Everyone, this is for everyone. Quickly, yes. Yes. You can move the chair if you want. I feel like. Yes, come. So you mean we're not getting up to sit down? Come. Because we need to let the sound go. I think it's a good time for so much. So, but we need a big smile, okay? All of you. Snap up. Marzi is a cultural official of Shukra with a master's degree in science from Sussex University. So we will continue. If you can bring Okay, welcome you again. I appreciate all of you coming here. We just have to rush these things. I'm glad he managed to speak, and he's going to another conference. Also, we have a lot of visitors here. We're going to go to Japan now because our 24th international conference is going to be in Tokyo, and I invite you all, particularly those in the Middle East, because we have to fly to the Middle East for 9 hours, 8 hours, and then we have to go there another 9 hours. So really, it's quite a long way. So you have to really start thinking about that. Our host, Dr. I think she's there, right? Oh, she's there. So I think I don't need to talk. You talk because the people want to listen to you rather than me. So we looking forward to listen to you, and then we can play the video.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Alam. Can you hear my voice? Okay, great. Thank you, Yuan. So, hello everyone. My name is Chiemi Kurokawa from Sophia University in Tokyo. So, it's very unfortunate that I couldn't travel to the UK this time. I truly wish I could be in London and meet and talk with all of you. So 23rd conference has just begun, but it is my great pleasure to invite you to our next conference, which will be held in Tokyo next April from 10th to 12th. April is one of the most iconic seasons in Japan. It's well known for sakura in Japanese or cherry blossoms in English, which usually bloom in early April. So if we are lucky, you may be able to enjoy them during your stay. And Tokyo is a city where tradition and innovation coexist. You can find centuries-old temples standing next to modern buildings. And what makes Tokyo particularly unique is how such a high-density metropolis remains remarkably safe, efficient, and walkable. Everyday life brings together historical neighborhoods, vibrant subcultures, and modern urban design in ways that you rarely see in other cities. So I hope you will enjoy exploring these distinctive layers of the city during your visits along with the conference. Before we move on the Tokyo introduction video, let me briefly mention the visa procedures because it's, I think, important. So entering Japan could be complicated depending on one's nationality and passport. I strongly advise you to confirm the required documents with the Japanese embassy in your country. I'm planning to bring a visa support officer on to our local organizing team. So please keep an eye on updates on our conference website. Okay, so I'm truly excited to welcome you in Tokyo, and we look forward to hosting a memorable conference. So now I'd like to share a short video introducing the city of Tokyo. So Yuan, please. So yeah, please enjoy the video. Thank you very much. Now's the time. This is life. Now's the time to come alive. Dreaming someday, dreaming come, watch it come. Now's the time to come alive. Come alive. Dreaming someday,
No, she should be back. She has a presentation.
So yes, that's all from me. Thank you very much. I really look forward to meeting you in Tokyo next April. Thank you.
Jimmy, thank you very much. So she's very keen to stop here in the last months. And just to tell you something, we were very excited to go to Tokyo. The Japanese embassy here in the UK, they invited us to an investment discussion about attracting us to go to Japan. So we've already been convinced to go to Japan before even, and then we connected. So the Tokyo Convention Center is part of this, the government. So I think it's going to be a fantastic conference. Just the time is short. So if you really want to do, you have to speed up. The time is very short, this April, because the reason why it was we were late, because we were trying to see what will happen with this conference, which I'm pleased we have kicked it today. So today we're officially on the 27th, because that conference was supposed to take place in Kuwait for the political issues. You know, the war in the Gulf, it has been, because we have to forecast. So we didn't know exactly, so it affected the timing here. But the thing is, this April time, Chimi mentioned, the best time in Japan for honeymoons, for you take your partners, they said the best time of the year. And they said people travel from all over the world just for particularly that Easter break. For the people in Europe, particularly in the UK and Europe, this will fall well within the Easter break across all Europe. So it will be a very nice time to go. Now we can play the video of the conference quickly. If you go to this one here, you can just go to go to the conference, our website. Tell you what is it about. Many people said, Alam, why are you focusing too much on AI? We said it's not us. The Secretary General of the United Nations last year said at the UN, we are hoping AI will help us to accelerate our movement to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development. So everyone now is looking for AI. The top number one job in the whole world is AI now. Our government here investing 70 million. We got an AI expert here, just arrived in the room. So AI, no, we need to go to the, Japan. If you just maximize this page. Yes, and go here, other conferences. Japan, yes, and you can play the video here. And go here, the video somewhere here, yeah. Yes. Everything is in our website. Please browse it. Everything from submission to deadline to everything about the publications, everything. Kimi, before she goes, any question to her before she goes? It's too late, you know, in Japan now. It's evening. So, Kimi, where are you now? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we'll see you very soon. No, it's 4 months. 4 months in Tokyo. Okay, long flight, by the way, 14 hours from London. So that's the tricky thing we are thinking about it now. You have no other option. Either you stuck 14 hours from London, or you go to Dubai or Qatar or Saudi Arabia, 7 hours, and then another 9 hours. So you have to work out how you're going to get there. Now, well, I think I think it's good. We only get 10 minutes over time, which is fantastic, to be honest. Now we're going to the second session. The speakers are there, the chair is here, everything. Up to you. We are very democratic people. Do you want to take a quick coffee or do you want us to continue? But the coffee is just next door. But in case most people arrive late, I say, we are happy. We are ready. We are here at your service. Do you want to take a quick coffee? But please make it quick, because we really don't want to, because this is a long day today, by the way. We have a very long day. And there are people joining us at lunch for the Trump Vice Chancellor and so on. You want to take a quick coffee? Yeah, but please make it quick. You can bring it
Yeah,
here.
of course.
This is didn't warn us, because you know they keep warning us of things we don't have to do. They didn't warn us about this, so you can bring your coffee. Because some room they said don't bring coffee. So you can go and get your coffee. Everything is ready. Just do it quickly. Yes. Can you show me the Bible? Yes. Text him. Say to him, do you want to go? first session, the first session after. I think you all hear us okay in the Zoom. We have 4 fantastic presentations, but that's all up to the chair of the. I wouldn't talk anything about the session. This is a dedicated session for artificial intelligence. It's going to be. We are very grateful. We are delighted. The deputy or the vice. Sometimes I pronounce it wrong. The vice president of Al Quds University in Palestine, and we're really delighted to have you here. And he's a distinguished academic, of course. You can see his bio there, and he's very relevant to this topic. We're so lucky. Normally, we're very lucky to get the best people to moderate the best sessions, and all of the sessions we tried to. So he accepted, and we're very grateful, Professor. He's the vice president of the Quds University. He's a distinguished professor in information management. He studied here in the UK. When we say in the UK, we're not biased to the UK, but it feels he's someone, we know him, we know our system. So it's a great pleasure. Thank you very much, Professor. So the floor is yours, and all your people are here ready, and she will help you. Thank you very much.
Good morning and welcome to this session about AI and data science and innovation for sustainability. But first of all, please allow me to thank Professor Alam Ahmed for the invitation to attend this session. And also I would like to thank him very much for the great efforts he did to arrange everything. He took care of everything that reminded me of the old days when I was in Japan as a student or as a professor there. I mean, in Japan, they take care of everything on all the details, the minor details. Even walking from the station to here, you don't need to ask anybody, just follow his instruction. So thank you so much, Professor Alam, for this opportunity. I am Hussein Jaddoul, Vice President of Al Quds University in Palestine. And as you all know, the AI and data-driven technologies are well used in energy management, in agriculture, in health, in climate modeling, in all aspects of the SDGs. However, the question is here, and how we can use these technologies ethically, responsibly, effectively, so we can maintain sustainable solution to those issues. Here we have today 4 distinguished speakers to speak about these topics, and it's our pleasure to give them the opportunity that they will shed the light on these topics. First speaker will be Dr. Rawad Hamad. He will talk about artificial intelligence for sustainable and responsible future. So please, Dr. Rawad.
Yeah. Hopefully I will try to.
Yes, so I'm gonna get up, it's not coming up.
So I love that. I see something before Professor.
Yeah.
I just want to say, for everybody I think here, the great solidarity with the Palestinian people, and never see the danger, let alone trouble.
Thank you so much. Beautiful presentation. Okay, thank you everybody for this invitation. Thank you, Dr. Alam, and thanks for the audience. I'll try to be as quick as possible because the time limit here is, So talking about artificial intelligence, I think this is the first session in the morning. We're talking about AI. One of the problems with AI is we keep referring to AI with so many different definitions, talking about different capabilities for the machine, especially intelligence, intelligent capabilities for machine to be given to human. Intelligent capabilities like problem solving, like decision making that we do them based on our kind of intuition, based on the activity that we learn, based on the knowledge that we have the previous. How do we make this decision and impact our life in a very effective way. Now, we start to think about this kind of mechanism as human, and how can we make this approach embedded in our machine? And this was the starting in the 50s. But later on, we have discovered that the explosion of big data, the computing capabilities that we have, allowed us and gave us another permission to move forward with this. And that's why we started to see very, very major breakthrough in algorithm, revolutionary technology, and the latest is large language model, which I'm sure that everybody here in the room has used it before multiple times. So talking about large language model application like ChatGPT, for example, and all the similar tools, we are using them daily today. Why? Because we can save a lot of time. It can do a lot of job for us. Now, these kind of breakthrough are not isolated from what we need to discuss today, because the topic here is AI for responsible and good future. We can call it AI for good. There are many initiatives nowadays called AI for good. And that's why we want to think about these tools, these breakthrough mechanism, algorithm, and how can we make sure that we are doing this in a suitable way. Now, I just want to remove these, if I can just, yep. Now, the main pillar of what we see today in AI, technology revolution, the main thing related to data explosion. So earlier, 20, 30 days, we do have the small piece of data, small equipment to store our data. Now, these are not available. Why? Because of the revolution in the data storage, the size is too much. Can anybody see or read this word here for me? So we know megabyte, we know kilobytes, zettabyte. What is that? We're talking about massive data explosion. So the expectation by end of 2025, which is almost this month, that the world data will be having 175 zettabyte of data, which is already we exceeded that. Why? Because we are producing data in a very, very enormous way. Every time you go from your hotel to come to the venue today, you have used the Google Map. Google Map is storing data about you, and we got this data increase more and more daily activity. The computing power as well, which we have produced before, we use CPU in our laptops, in our computers, in our devices, the mobile phone. Then we move to GPU. GPU referred to graphical processing unit. And that graphical processing unit is it's not for graphic, designed initially for graphics, but it is far gone beyond that because it's more computational powerful tool. And then we move from GPU to TPU, where we have loss of power to handle data. And finally, talking about algorithmic advancement, having neural network, which kind of simulation for what we have in our brain in order to allow us to move forward and make intelligent decisions. Now, these are not the only revolution that we have. This allows us to, but these are the key, and this allowed us to go for what we call transformative capabilities, including large language model and the generative AI tool. What is generative AI? Generative AI is talking to us rather than looking at the data and predicting what I want to see. I can be able to predict something that I haven't seen, I haven't been taught about. That's the basic idea about generative AI. Now, talking about the human-like creativity and somehow summarizing this text for me. Try to write a schedule for the event. Try to invent different ways to write a story. These are creative activities that we do as human. Now, can AI do that? With the large language model, the generative AI tools, technologies, we can do that. Now, obviously, with so many problems, with so many limitations, if you would like to get into details, but the GPT, which is generative pre-trained model, and DALL-E, the GPT is a generic one. The DALL-E, they can work with music, with image files, etc., and more specific utilization. We do have also some innovative tools, technologies that are developed to help us in healthcare-related generative AI tool, etc. So the summary of this, or the takeaway message of this is an AI game changer, yes, but we still have so many long pathway to go forward. Now, the sustainability challenge here is what we would like to talk about for a responsible future. Now, where do we store all of our data? Data centers. How much data we have? Large, we talk about 175 zettabyte worldwide. Now, how do we power them? How do we use power to manipulate, handle them? We probably, for one day, in one of the data centers in the United States, for example, we're using the power that is enough for the whole Africa. which means we are killing our world by using excessive use of the power. And that's just only the power. We're not talking about anything else. And that's why we're talking about the responsible use of the AI. We started to talk about the circular economy and the waste reduction that we have. So AI helped us a lot to, fix some of these problems, but not that much. Because when we move to the technology that go beyond that and go for the back end, we are using massive resources, massive power resources, computational power, etc. And what we have covered in the sustainability, we have done something really bad on the other side. And what to be done? We need to make what we call SDG progress monitoring. We always now thinking of the AI innovation that we are creating and see, do we have a metrics to look into the SDG monitoring platform and see whether we can fix things or not? This is one of the challenges that we are talking about these days. And that's why we need to talk about the balance in the AI. So this is a multidisciplinary effort that we need to work with. We need to have a proper infrastructure for sustainability and the governance framework, which allows me to say, this is allowed, this is not allowed, this is need to be fixed, for example, or need to be improved based on the accountability, transparency, etc. That is what is missing at the moment. So for instance, if I talk about large language model, everyone is happy about it. Okay, who's responsible for the data that we are handling? Who's accountable for that? Who's looking at the transparency that we have? Who's looking at the bias that we can generate, bias of decision we can generate? There's nothing about that at the moment here. Again, with the EU Act, EU AI Act that we had recently, just earlier this year, is still having so many issues related to the governance. Now, one of the issues that this is difficult because this is a multidisciplinary effort. So what is meaningful to me as a computer scientist is probably not meaningful to someone from psychology, etc. And how can we bring sustainability to that? And which one of these aspects we can, let's say, give it a little bit, I would say, a little priority, less priority than other. So the summary here, responsible AI governance is not an optional. We have to follow this rule in order to keep this world safe in the future. So we do have some case studies looking at some of these projects. So the healthcare innovation, well, that was an AI-enabled portable X-ray machine that helps some people in certain areas to do or get some kind of remote kind of healthcare activities. Social justice AI is helping that a lot in order to support some social justice and protecting vulnerable population from getting getting access to certain service, and climate change as well, or climate resilient agriculture. We do monitoring using AI to predict some of the areas that we have, especially in food security and others. Now, is that enough? Of course, it's not enough. And it's getting worse and worse every day, because if you know that with the heat increasing and with the rise of the temperature because of the data that we use, probably 1/3 of some of the countries, without mentioning the countries, in less than 20 years will disappear. They will sink, basically. And they will lose all of the potential for the agriculture, etc. So the principle for responsible AI future, we talk about human AI collaboration. So all days, I just sit in front of the computer, give some prompt to the AI tools, allow them to do some work for me. Now we're heading to a place where AI will be employing us to get a tool outcome, because I do have the experience that the AI doesn't have. And then I should be able to collaborate with that. So we need a framework for AI human collaboration. We need to enrich what we call AI ethical literacy. So it's not the ethical literacy that I'm allowed to do something. I can't take any publication from anybody without citing it. We all know that. But the AI can do massive work around this, and this is not captured as well. The SDG online innovation, whatever we do, we create tools, we create innovation now. SDG will be used as a metric for that. These are the key principles. And the framework that we are going to develop, and we are developing is under research at the moment, is we call it AI for all, because we want AI to be good for everybody. So we call it AI for a sustainable and responsible future. We're looking at the explainability and transparency. So if I make any decision these days, I need to explain to you as an AI, of course not a human, I need to explain to you why this decision is being made. We talked about ethical aspects. We need to be fair to everybody and remove all the bias that we have, because I train my data based on biased data at some point, and my decisions are biased to a certain extent. And I need to fix this. I need to look at the privacy and data protection, which is a very, very pressing issue there. Again, the robustness and reliability of all the data that we have, procedures, etc., need to be maintained. we need to talk about who is holding the responsibility and accountability for all the AI actions that I have. And AI action is not limited today. I have what we call data-driven organization, data-driven systems. So if I feed good data to the system will give you good results. But the data is evolving, and by the data time is evolving, then without referring to any political discourse, but some of the attacks or jailbreaking on ChatGPT happen to enforce ChatGPT to respond whether this particular part of the world belong to this country. This country had succeeded. So ChatGPT gave us strong result because data-driven. So who's responsible for that? Who's accountable for this? Nobody is telling us this. And the AI governance, which need to be out of the current framework that we have at the moment, and finally looking at the whole human to have the ability to oversight all of that from a social perspective. So these are the quick principles that we need to talk about. Now, yep, 2 minutes, thank you. So the changes that we are going ahead, so resource consumption is going to be really bad. And this is one of the problems that we have. Few researchers talked a little bit about the AI bubble, which is gonna happen maybe probably 2-3 years. Some others say it's gonna happen probably less than a year, okay? Because all we spend energy, computational power is going to be giving us some negative outcome. The global equity is going down and down because the divide between two different parts of the world is going to be increased. And finally, the human rights protection isn't in its best form. Why? Because I do have the data about pretty much everyone, and I can process the data in the way that I want. I can generate the result that I want. Okay, and just example for that, people usually these days download data set, analyze data set, and get the result out of that. So some people did some experiment that I would teach ChatGPT, for example, not just ChatGPT, any other product, and feed the data and ask the ChatGPT to give me the outcome that I want. So they created data and they gave us the output and said this is research and it can be published. So all of these kind of responsibility are part of the problem that we are trying to handle. So the transformative potential for AI still good, can do lots of things for us. Yes, we cannot disagree with that. But then again, we need also to hold the responsibility for what we need to be producing. And that is a big challenge so forward. So thank you so much for the attendance. I've been trying to be as quick as possible, but I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
For this inspiring speech, and actually each topics that Dr. Rawad mentioned, it's worthwhile to be maybe a PhD thesis because it's, I mean, this topics is very new and each topic need more research. But if you have any question to Professor Rawad, who I forget to mention is a professor at the University of East London, UK. So if you have any question or any clarification, please.
First of all, thank you for Professor Alam and the organizer for this conference, and also thank you for this present about AI. The question here is, have you looked at the priorities that we should look at for the time being for the challenges that you have mentioned? Is it related to the tasks or to the decision making that the AI is taking for the progress of the sustainability itself? So again, do you look at the priority of the challenges that you have?
Thank you so much. So a very important question, because the problem with that, your priority is different from mine. So we are software developers. I myself is a software developer. I worked for more than 10 years software developer. And we created AI to replace so many other jobs, but it started replacing us. That's why Microsoft now is writing their code within AI, by AI tools, and starting to get rid of so many software developers. Now, it's not going to happen in the future, sorry, in the close future, but it might happen at the moment. So the priorities of these companies are different from priorities of individuals, different from priorities set by the government, unfortunately. And at the moment, the discussion is happening around these institutions, and I don't think we are going to get a very close agreement between all of the, let's say, the parties of this. But what is promising, I think, because, for example, we're working with the International Society for AI in Education, and this is international, covered from state till Japan. We're having all the countries talking about how can I use AI to survive and to help me in doing the the educational job. So we got the agreement between education organization. I think we need to do that at the level of industry. We need to do that at the healthcare organization, hospitals, etc. And then later on, government will oversee all that. But at the moment, we unfortunately we're not getting closer to that. That's why the problem we are raising this now is because the AI development is faster than what we can. And then before you regulate something, you have a new tool coming to the place, and this is a big challenge for us. Now, I think we started to feel the heat, but I think within probably 1 or 2 years, it's going to be worse if you can't fix it. But yeah, it's a big challenge, and that's what we are trying to highlight this issue. Oh, thank you. Any more questions? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Maybe after the session and during the coffee break, you can discuss with Dr. Rad. Thank you so much, Professor. Please. Our next speaker, Dr. Alauddin Abu Bakr. He is from European School of Data Science and Technology in Germany. His expertise AI implemented carbon accounting for EcoScope AI. So please, 12 minutes.
Yeah. So, hello everyone, good morning. Thank you so much. And I'm really glad to come to London. This is my first time. Thank you, Professor Alam, for this invitation. I really like the conference. And so my name is Alauddin Bakr. I'm originally from Tunisia and living in Germany since 15 years. And I'm working as data scientist there, AI engineer, and doing my PhD in DBA in data science. So today I would like to present my prototype. It's called EcoScope AI. I developed this prototype. So we have like two, like in Europe, we have two framework, like two regulation, two rules, if you want to do business with them. So we have like CSCRD is Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, and CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So if you are a company, you have to generate, like to make a report for these two. So for example, for a company outside Europe, and you want to export in Europe, you have to make a report regarding your carbon emission of your product. So you have to deal with this framework. And for company outside or inside Europe, you have to do your sustainability report and send them to this framework CSRD. But the question, the challenge is how to do that. And that's what I'm going to introduce you today. So this is my agenda. So it's like, it's my paper, actually. I write a paper for that, and I hope it will be published. And this is like our typical research objective, literature review, methodology, discussion, finding, recommendation is like a classic paper strategy. So, introduction. As I mentioned, there is a lot now, it's must rules from European Union, European Parliament that everyone wants to do to import, export product into or outside Europe has to generate report in order to make business with them. CBAM, CSRD, please keep it in mind. And on the other side, we have Sustainable Development Goals 12 and 13, the climate action and responsible consumption and production. So my motivation was, I built these tools, this prototype, I'm still working on it, which bridge AI, regulation, sustainabilities. And my objective, as I mentioned, so I implemented these AI modules and based on norms, ISO norm. So 1464 and 1467. 1464 for organizations, carbon emissions, and 67 for product carbon footprint. So this is, we have two framework, CSCRD, CBAM. We have two ISO norms, and I'm using AI. I've implemented these tools in order, my goal is to generate this report automatically. No lot of, like 90% automatically, not a lot of manual work. So this is my challenge, my goal for that. Before everyone can, like every company can generate this kind of report, but there is a lot of manual work. You have to collect data. You have a lot of Excel list, and you have to calculate the carbon emission of company or of product. And you have to make a report. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money. But with AI, what I'm doing now is 90% automatically. So the question is, where does carbon originate? So as we know, carbon emission comes from transportation 10%, from industry 20%, from building, agriculture. So this is like actually carbon emission comes from. And the question is like, if we want to calculate our carbon emission, not only calculate to make a business, we want to produce, we are a company. At the end of the day, we want to produce, make a lot of money, but sustainability, we don't have to forget that we actually living in one environment together and we should like protect our environment. How to do that with AI is using AI, how we can optimize. I'm not saying like we are at the end achieving zero carbon emissions. It will not happen, but we can optimize, we can reduce using AI. So here is like carbon footprint. You know, like at the end we are CO2 carbon emission. And if we want to calculate carbon emission at the end for every, it will be in kilogram of CO2. This is like the measure. It will be kilogram of CO2. So my literature review, I mentioned before, I use ISO norms to calculate carbon emission. So here is supply chain. Supply chain, we are collecting raw materials, we are producing, we are choosing supplier, and then we are transporting our product to be at the end sold. So this is ISO 4064. Is like ISO norms is some best practice helping us how to calculate carbon emission in supply chain. At the end, I want to make our supply chain sustainable supply chain. ISO 67 is regarding the 64 regarding organization, 67 regarding the product. So this is supply chain, 67. 64 is on the organization. You can imagine we are on, like, we can imagine this is a company, this organization. We are producing, we are using electricity. So at the end we produce more of carbon emission. If we produce our product, so we collect raw materials, produce, transport, and this is another chain. And one more thing, I used DEFRA from UK Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. It provides us with a huge data set for Europe regarding all, for example, if you go by a car, how much carbon emission comes from this route. If you are producing plastic, how much carbon emission comes from this production of plastic for 1 kilogram, for example. Yeah, this is a huge data set for electricity. You can see here electricity, waste, transportation, and I used this data in order to calculate carbon footprint for that. But this is, keep in mind, this is just for Europe. I will tell you later why I focus on Europe and not Europe. So, research methodology, I implemented these tools. This is Ecoscope AI. So at the end, we have a lot of data and you want to calculate carbon footprint, and carbon footprint is from raw material, supplier, transportation, waste. So this is how my tools that I developed look like. So we bring, like we have a data. We can, for example, take picture of invoices or slips or so whatever. For example, transportation invoice or buying raw materials. We put all the data there. We don't have to enter them manually. And we can, for example, detect anomalies from this data, or we can cluster. Here, I will show you anomalies. So this is some example for that. We can detect anomalies from this data. How you said, for example, it's example, anomalies. You have someone, like a supplier, mentioned in his invoices that he was traveling, bringing some product from Saudi Arabia to UK, and it's mentioned his supply, his carbon footprint is he just 10 kilograms. So it's unbelievable. It's not like the truth. So we can detect these anomalies. This is an example. So all other anomalies I cannot mention now because I don't have a lot of time, but this one, just one example to keep it in mind. Natural language processing, NLP. So we can classify. I said we have a lot of data. We bring the data in these tools, and then this tool with NLP can detect, for example, for plastic, how much carbon emission for 1 kilo plastic, or transportation, how much? Everything. So with NLP, it may categorize or classify this data. API, so these are our goals at the end. We can make our data like clean in one chart. Clustering, so with the AI, we can cluster supplier, cluster waste, cluster transportation, in order to have an overview about our group. So if you are a manager and want to take a decision, what is the most like the best route to bring our product from point I to point B? So we can cluster, and then we have like the route with least carbon emission, clustering. Emission by supplier, categorizing emission, supplier by emission, categorizing waste by emission. This is all example. We can also travel mode. We can categorize travel mode by emission. Also energy tip, like we can clustering. This is like for AI. If we say AI, we can detect anomaly, we can cluster, we can classify, we can computer vision is like detecting from image. This is all features. And at the end of the day, we can generate, so generative AI, we can generate a report. After clustering, anomaly detection, classifying, we generate report for CBRM or for CSRD. Also another way, we can play multiple scenario. What's happened if I change from transport mode to other transport mode? How much carbon emission will I save? What's happened if I change from energy tip to another energy tip in a company? How much carbon emission I save? So this is all kind of scenario which I can play with that in my tools, which I implemented. We can also forecast emission or forecast carbon emission based on historical data. So in this case, for example, based on historical data for the last 4, 5 years, 10 years, I can forecast emission for the coming year, for the coming 3 years, based on data, and how can I optimize, how can I make some optimization strategy for that, based on forecasting. Also, ESG intelligence. I can put a lot of document from supplier, whatever, and then I can do some sentiment analysis. So with sentiment analysis, for example, I have a document sustainability report of one supplier, and I want to see if it's like, based on his data, is like a positive, like regarding carbon emission sustainability, or negative. So I can do some qualitative analysis of his report, of his document, based on ESG intelligence. So, as I mentioned, I developed Ecoscope AI. And what is my goal, the next step? So I reached this feature which I showed you now. And I did some comparative with other companies like Persephone, Normative, doing also the same thing. And I want later, my goal, I hope so, I want to make a business with that, to start my startups, like offering some kind of tools for sustainability. This is my goals after finishing my PhD, inshallah. And this is like my future competitor. But I haven't forgotten my Arab origin, because I'm originally from Tunisia, and I want to do something Ecoscope for Arabia. I mentioned before DEFRA, this database collecting data from Europe, but the same data, there is other data set, and it's a challenge in Arab country to get data. I was working also on SDG tracker with Professor Alam, is a project he will be introduced today. And I had a lot of, for example, I analyzed a report from Tunisia, my country, Libya, Egypt. Every time there is a problem with collecting data. So they say, okay, in 5 years we want to achieve, but how? Do we have data for that? No, so this is a big challenge. And with Ecoscope Arabia, we can like collecting data set and then having like generating report for company which want to make a business in Europe. Or if you are not going to make a business in Europe and you want to make business in Arab country, there is also Arab vision, like Saudi Arabia vision, Emirate vision, Kuwait vision, and how to do that. So here is a recommendation if you want for the SDG or SDG, which ISO norm. So you see from SDG 1 to 17, which is aligned ISO norm, which can be used in order to some best practice to achieve this SDG. So we have no poverty, which ISO until 70 partnership for the goal, and which ISO the. It's like recommendation from my side. Conclusion. So these my tools, and I mentioned the next step will be Ecoscope Arabia, which I already started working on it. I finished my paper 2 days ago, and I sent the paper to Professor Arshinheim today, and we are collaborating to, I hope, to bring to success this project. Thank you so much, and yeah, if you have any question, you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alauddin, and I hope you will graduate and get your PhD successfully. And I'm sure you will be a very prominent scientist in the use of AI in terms of sustainable development. We have time for one very short question, please.
Thank you very much, Hassan Nur Adam. Hamburg University. I am very interested in your research concerning the carbon emission, but on the other side, we are as natural resources, we are working in carbon sink as foresters. So there is emission and there is, we call it carbon absorption. So internationally, there is some countries, they have huge amount of carbon emission internationally. Some countries, they have a huge amount of carbon absorptions. So you mentioned land cover and you mentioned the forestation. I think this model now it's working in one side for the emission. Now in forestry, we are thinking how we can estimate the carbon absorption or sinking by forestry or by green cover. Is it possible to make any model to join absorption with emission carbon internationally? Thank you very much.
We're working in carbon absorption. So this is like forestry, for example. And this in these tools here is like at the end we have to generate report for regulatory framework in Europe. So we have to generate a report saying like I am a company X and I'm producing carbon emission and I want to export to Europe. And this is my report. You see, this is also what you mean is optimization, how we could reduce carbon emission. So to make like equilibrium, you know, this is also part of my project regarding like, for example, forecasting. You see, I mentioned also forecasting the future of carbon emission. And with ESG intelligence, what is, for example, you know, we have supply chain, collecting raw material, producing, transportation, and so on. And the challenge is how to optimize, how to reduce carbon emission in every activities. For example, transport route optimization, which route with less carbon emission, raw materials or supplier, which supplier with less carbon emissions, production, how, for example, energy, how can I use less carbon emission with renewable energy, for example, waste, also recycle. So this is also how we build like forestry, for example, to reduce also carbon emission. So we have to know the carbon market. So every company has to pay, like, you know, it's like a stock market, you know. So at the end, with AI, we can optimize carbon emission, pay less tax, have a good deal with European, and also I want to do that in Arab countries because Arab country, yeah, there is not a lot of alignment between countries, and I hope so. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And as usual in all conferences, you stuck with the time, so sorry for that. And now our next speaker is a PhD candidate as well. He's Mr. Patrick Salda. He's from Hertford University from UK. He's going to talk for us about balancing AI speed and control. So Mr. Salda, is he here or
Yeah, he's online.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. At first, can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can.
Great. All right. So let me share my screen very quick, and then we can get started. All right. I'm presenting now. Is it all right? Can you see?
That's not on the presenting page. It's still
So hold on. I will stop my presentation once again. share screen 2. Let's go. Okay. What about that?
Yeah, it's perfect now. Thank you.
So yeah, at first, thank you so much, guys, for having me here. It's an honor to present my topic to you today, and unfortunately, I cannot make it to be there in London, but still, we have the opportunity to present it remotely. So I'm happy to do that and to be here and to present and to welcome you guys to my paper and my presentation about balancing AI speed and control. Before, no, come on. All right. Before we get started, balancing AI control or speed and control, what does it actually mean? And yeah, let's say in light of our current rapid technological progress around AI, this is what the first two presentations already mentioned. We as humans, we need some sort of responsibility oversight to ensure that AI keeps and stays safe, ethical, as well as trustworthy. And this is what my paper is all about. So what I would like to present to you is mainly my research results and insights of my findings that I conducted during my study. But before we get started, a very short overview of myself. Hi, once again, I'm Patrick. I'm also a DBA student, but at Heriot-Watt. And I just finished my dissertation about artificial intelligence and digital ethics. And next to my studies, I'm a full-time manager in a consultancy branch where I actively put AI governance systems into practice. So far, so good. And to my person. Balancing AI and AI speed and control. What does it mean, or why is it important? Because what we see today is nothing different, or it is super similar to what we saw during the industrialization 200 years ago. Because during that time, people had a super similar situation. More and more agriculture work shifted towards factory work, and people had certain concerns. They had concerns about their jobs, about getting replaced by technology. Governance enacted laws to protect the society. And what we see today is super similar, because AI is another innovation which might be another key driver of economic development. And this is everything that, or this term, or this term was labeled by Josef Schumpeter, an Austrian economist back in the 20th century, with the term creative destruction. And this term means that current market situations and conditions are replaced by newer technologies, whereas social and economic growth results. And this is exactly what we have right now with AI, right? There's a new technology, there's new market situations, new conditions, new business cycles arise, new products evolve. And this is super similar to what has happened in the past. And because of that, we as humans, we have to learn from the past, right? And therefore, we need to adapt, or we need to balance this disruptive technological progress, AI, with some societal and ethical responsibility. But here comes the thing. How should we do that? It is super important, but not super important. It is super difficult to set up some sort of guardrails for AI, because AI is evolving and developing in a super high pace, which is difficult to handle at all. But still, everything with AI right now is associated with risks. And what we do with AI has certain risks. and therefore it is super important to consider risks when it comes to AI in general. This is meant with balancing AI and control. I just highlighted a risk over here. It's not important like what kind of risk it is, but it is important to mention that there's not only one risk when it comes to AI. There's a ton. There's a multiple risk which have a or which affect you as an individual, which affect every organization, which might affect an entire ecosystem. And whether it's a technical risk, an operational one, a non-technical one, it doesn't matter at first hand, right? But there's a lot of risk, and we have to be aware of that. But here comes the thing: how can you address these AI risks? I mean, everyone talks about that, but nobody really knows how to do it. And what I usually do in a corporate context is that I put an AI governance system into practice, which has 3 components: a risk management one, a compliance one, an AI ethical one. This governance system has or is supported by frameworks. There are multiple frameworks around the world, multiple ones, and regulations such as the European AI Act. So these frameworks and guidelines, they help to steer steering corporates to actively put AI governance system into practice. But so far so good. This is just a corporate side. What I did in my research was slightly different, because I'm as a social scientist, I wanted to dive or to have a deep dive into social structures. So I did a mainly qualitative driven inductive research. So it means I conducted a Delphi study with political experts, political AI experts, professional AI experts, and experts from the academic environment. Here, I did some focus groups. I brought those people together. We had, of course, a shared questionnaire. We gathered very rich, very qualitative data. And of course, I did some analysis and brought everything together. So, and of course, in different iterative rounds. And what I found out what I found out based on 2 research questions was that I first started to ask, okay, how can digital ethics be sustainably integrated into the development process of AI to ensure that AI is safe? It's a very broad term. And you can already recognize it's probably mostly qualitative driven. There is no variable X or Y which you can relate to each other. But all these rich and qualitative data, they revealed 6 certain measures which were clearly obtainable. The first one, measure 1, early and systematic integration of ethical aspects into the development process. What does it mean? So if you have an AI use case, and for example, an AI use case presented in the previous presentation, and you do not consider within that AI use case ethical aspects, and you go into operation, it might be too late to put some ethical consideration into that product. It will be hard to do it afterwards. And therefore, we came up with the idea of putting some sort of non-functional requirements, for example, into the implementation process of AI, or to start thinking about ethics in every single iteration of that implementation process. So the second measure, like how can you put ethics or digital ethics into practice, was focusing on institutional measures. So for example, if a European Commission enacts an EU AI Act, which happens right now and which is mandatory for companies, It is super helpful for developer or for companies who produce AI to have some sort of guidance and institutional measures or acts, and this is helpful. The third measure, consider interdisciplinary and diversity sensitive teams, is also very important, because ethics itself is not just ethics. There's not a single type of ethics. We live in a globalized world, and every culture has a different perspective on ethics, and therefore it is super important to have diversity sensitive teams, interdisciplinary teams with different backgrounds when it comes to AI implementation. The fourth measure, orientation towards frameworks when implementing ethical aspects. So for example, we have a NIST AI risk management framework. We have other institutions. Everyone is building frameworks right now. And these types of frameworks, they help steering towards the right direction. Because if nobody knows what to do, and nobody knows what to do, nobody will ever put ethics into practice. And therefore, it's important to have these frameworks. The fifth measure, consideration of context dependency when integrating ethical aspects, means that AI use cases are not, or every AI use case is different, right? And if you have an AI use case, let's speak it, or let's call it very simplified. If you have an AI use case which identifies on a picture a dog or a cat, it might not be worthwhile to consider like a full pack of ethics into the product, right? But when it comes to the human, when that AI product doesn't identify a cat or a dog, but different symptoms of a cancer stages, for example, then it is super important to have some sort of ethics in your product or in the AI implementation process, because we as human, we matter, right? And therefore it's important to do that. So, and the sixth one, consideration of implementation barriers when integrating ethical aspects, is more a technical issue, because if an EU AI Act tells us, like, hey, you have to implement fairness and responsibility to your AI products, how should you do that? How can you put fairness and responsibility in code? Or how can you put different ethical perspective into code? It is super hard for a producing company to actually do that and to work on these requirements. Therefore, let's make it very short and due to time constraints, but therefore, you can put digital ethics into practice. For example, through systematically and institutionally requirements and frameworks, but also it must be context sensitive and actively take technical and cultural barriers into account. This is a very short form of my first research question. In terms of my second research question and analysis, I asked whether AI will be stronger if it's ethical, which means, okay, is there actually a benefit and added value if you as a company, as a developer, put ethics into practice? Yes, no, maybe. And
you have 2 minutes more, please.
Exactly. And to shorten it up, I wanted to give you a summary on that and do not go through every single condition, because ethics itself is good. It's nice. It's important, but it is more a stabilizing effect rather than a universally improving performance. And therefore, it's always important to see all these measures and requirements and balance it in a way which is useful. So far, so good. Hopefully, I'm not overdue, and therefore, if you have any questions and or concerns, feel free to.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, if we have one very short question from any of the audience, or if somebody is interested, you can contact Mr. Zelda online, and I'm sure Professor Alam will share all of those interesting, very interesting actually presentations with all of the audience. Oh, our fourth, thank you so much, Mr. Zarda. It seems there is no question. That's good. So our last speaker today, he is a very prominent scientist actually, and maybe he is also a politician. He is Dr. Petro Dumitriu from Diplo Foundation, Switzerland. He will talk about the emergence of international norms and AI ethics. He has a very rich experience and a very extensive CV. Very interesting to hear Dr. Petro. So, Dr. Petro, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? I suppose so. Okay, thank you very much, Professor, and I thank very much the previous speakers, because obviously that was a very interesting series of presentations, and in a way I feel that my short presentation will be very complementary and will go into a coherent link with the presentation of Professor Awad Hamad and with Dr. Patrick Zalda speaking more about ethics. I will use what I would call spontaneously the reverse innovation. So 20 years ago, it was an innovation to make presentation on PowerPoint. I'm back 20 years ago, and I will make a extemporaneous presentation, read my lips presentation, so I will have your effort to follow me. So indeed, as it resulted from the two presentations I mentioned, although the practical application on carbon emission is also related to ethical considerations, I would say that we somehow should be optimistic about the options of following the development of AI technology, while at the same time taking care about the ethical aspects of it. But it is obvious that drawing the border between ethical and non-ethical use is more difficult than making the difference between legal and illegal. And we are talking now about the codification of international law on AI. Why? It was already alluded, there are cultural differences between states, between generations, between various stakeholders. It's one way that a company is thinking, a profit company, profit-seeking company, and a non-governmental organization taking care of the energy consumption. There are cultural differences between individuals also. And there are cultural differences between religions. So all these differences make difficult any sort of definition of ethics. And also what is moral, ethics is about moral and morality, but what is moral fluctuated in time during the history. We know that, slavery, for instance, that for centuries was considered normal and moral thing, and it's no longer the case. The other difficulties come from the fact that ethics is it's basically and fundamentally and primarily a human feature. But now, obviously, we have to extend it to attribute ethics also to organizations, to institutions, and this is where the problem lies. These considerations are not always included in deontological norms or professional ethics. From what I said now, I would see two possible conclusions. The first one is that, if one has to take into consideration all these cultural differences in dealing with the ethical aspects in international law, I see no other better place than the United Nations. Of course, we all know, and I refer myself to the EU AI Act, which is fundamentally important, being very comprehensive and having consequences at global level. But to take into account and to produce a model that is embraced and applicable across the world, then the United Nations is the place where this stuff is coming. And then if we say that the human is let's say, the custodian, the main custodian of ethics, then the men should play a fundamental role in everything that relates to the development of AI. So we come to the responsibility of the governments, and I cannot but compare the options of the government compared with the industry. It's obviously, I compare that with the race between a gazelle, which is the innovative industry, and an elephant, which is the government. It is very much so, because the new technologies, when they are developed, they are flying above existing laws, rules, and regulations, which becomes instantly and inherently old. The logic of innovation in itself is not influenced by ethical, moral, equity, and other societal considerations. Their goal is ultimately the return of investment, to increase profits, to expand on new or larger market. And the speed, obviously, the government will be also always lagging behind. And what the government can do is, if they cannot take preventive measures or envisage preventive safeguards, their role will be limited to damage containment and risk mitigations, and these will be the only options left. While for the industry, while for any legislative process, one needs many stakeholders, many political, social, and economic correlations. So then there is a role here for the consumers, but I think this takes much more time to discuss, because I would say that if we consider the main responsible for ethic consideration, the governments, the industry, and the international organizations, then the consumers could play and become a wise witness of all these developments. Now, as Patrick said, not everything is completely new in that. I would remind you that we have the 3 laws of robotics since 1942, and the first law of robotics are precisely can mirror what kind of laws we should apply to artificial intelligence. The laws of robotics invented by the writer, the science fiction writer Isaac Asimov. But even institutionally, I think anytime that we have to face as governments, I am a former diplomat, we have to face a new technology. We know that the same rights that people have offline must be also protected online. And what is illegal offline should also be illegal online. So this is the first sort of a line of defense while we are dealing with risk involved by new technology. And I fully agree with Patrick and with Rawad about the fact that there are a lot of risks, and the risks are those that are concerning at this point in time. So for those dealing with the ethical consideration, everything is linked with risk management. And the ultimate solution is that ethical concern lies with the humans, and that should be the case during the AI design, development, and deployment stages. So all these stages of AI systems life cycle should follow and incorporate human-centric practices, and leaving enough and meaningful place for human decision making. So I could say that since 2024, the international community could be satisfied with the fact that there is no longer a legal vacuum on AI. We had before a number of soft norms of ethics. I think the notable one is the UNESCO recommendations on ethics of artificial intelligence issued in 2021. then these principles from UNESCO were embraced by the United Nations System Chief Executive Board of Coordination, which is the coordinating body for more than 30 United Nations organizations. Everything that is fund program under the auspices of the United Nations have embraced this principle. And we have a comprehensive framework for global AI governance produced in 2024 by a group of experts convened by the Secretary General. I mentioned that although it's just a Secretary General report, because this guide was the result of work not just of official governmental delegates, but in a multi-stakeholders format. So we had the industry, we have the academy, we have the NGO militants. So there was enough about having all perspective on ethical consideration. Then we have also in 2024 the first international treaty on AI. On artificial intelligence. It was the Framework Convention of the Council of Europe, which is, let's say, circumscribed to the very strict space of an ambit, human rights, democracy, and rule of law. This convention is technology neutral, but it does not regulate the technology in itself, does not have indication for the industry, but only on the way the human factors will use it. And of course, like all other conventions of the Council of Europe, they describe a framework for international cooperation. Then I will not talk too much about this EU AI Act, which is anyway, anyone would recognize the most substantial and action-oriented international act on artificial intelligence. Yeah, and you would say that, okay, this is mandatory only for the member states of the European Union. That is true, but we know very well from practice that in this globalized world, it would be important for all suppliers of artificial intelligence products to take into account this act. And in terms of, they do not define ethics, but they define the unethical practices that are prohibited. So they work by elimination, and they have a list of clear practices that are not ethical. And which is even better, the EU Artificial Intelligence Act provides the means of enforcement and penalties. So it's important that we are having a uniform legal framework, in particular for the development, the placing on the market, the putting into service, and the use of artificial intelligence system in the Union, which means that it's a very comprehensive framework, and being endowed with these means of enforcement, I think it's a way to follow. And I think researchers like you, academics like you, can help. They can help their countries and their research communities to somehow see how this kind of legislation is to be better put into practice. And that I like the idea of this reporting on the carbon emission, which is really a kind of help to the EU legislators to make their decision. Now, if you are getting too enthusiastic about the future of international law on artificial intelligence, I will add a bemol. There is this first resolution of the General Assembly in 2024, resolution 78/265. It is the first resolution ever adopted by the General Assembly on artificial intelligence. And I found, I'm familiar with the language of United Nations resolutions, and I found with some unpleasant surprise that the member states have decided that whatever they say in that resolution refers to artificial intelligence system in the non-military domain. In other words, and we know what they mean, it means that, the military establishments will have their hands free in developing AI system for military purposes. And just don't take me as a Cassandra, as making bad prophecies. But I remember 20 years ago we were discussing in the committee, in the human rights committee, we were discussing the use of autonomous lethal weapons, and the champions of the drones, they predicted how nicely the drones will be used to deliver food to refugee camps, to deliver postal services in distant places. And we know now how active is that drones technology as military weapons. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Petro, for this inspiring speech. Actually, I'm not sure if you have any question for Dr. Petro, or yeah, please. Just 30 seconds.
Hello, thank you so much. Your presentation was incredibly knowledgeable. And being an academician and a writer and a researcher, I always feel that rather talking about ethical or unethical practices of AI, how about we talk about best practices of AI, especially for the universities, and even if you talk about sustainability. This is my, you can say, inquisitive question from you. And another very important aspect that I would like everyone to share today is about the role of AI in preventing or creating a bottleneck for cognitive competence, cognitive skills for the future. How can we work on this? So these are the two important areas I would like, if you can give a quick highlight over here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I think you somehow helped me to make a point which I know from my experience, because I'm teaching online a course online on multilateral diplomacy, and what I found out in recent years is a very bad practice of some students, for the time they are a minority, in the sense that they are substituting their own effort of digesting and synthesizing facts into their own conclusion by using passively the results of the artificial intelligence. And that is not just a problem for the students. And I realize that in the academic world, there are no specific safeguards or definition of to what extent you consider the AI use as plagiarism. So it is an issue open for everyone. But the situation is even worse, because now we are aware and we see that on the internet we can find so many articles and studies that are not actually the property of the brain of the signatories. They are produced by artificial intelligence. And you can see the similarities in the construction and the structuring of the text. So I think one of the first duties of the academic communities and the research circles is to find a way to isolate and to allow the personal input and creativity in research and in academic careers. As for the way to avoid other evils that might be brought by artificial intelligence, I think indeed we should act as responsible consumers. What we do now, we talk here, you and me and everybody were happy about our conclusions, but then we use such and such AI tool sometimes without thinking of the consequences. So I know so many children playing, playing with artificial intelligence, using the demos, the free of charge version to do some stuff. And that represents a huge consumption of
Thank you. We
energy.
are 20
So,
minutes
so
behind our program.
where I see a solution.
Thank you so much for the clarification. And now we'll handle the certificate to Dr. Rawad and to Mr. Ala Din. So, Mr. Dr. Rawad.
I think before we do that, thank you very much. Can you bring Petro back if you don't mind?
Yes.
Petro, thank you very much. I just want to show people something. Can you see the one, this Ahliya University Bahrain at your back on your shelf? We are sneaking on your office. This was given to him, I remember, in 2017. Dr. Petro Binti Petro is one of the few people, as far as I know, and I have said this many times public, Petro, and I will say it again, one of the few people at the United Nations system who reach out to academia. And that 2017, when we went to Bahrain, he said to us, can I go and present the United Nations Knowledge Management report in Bahrain? So the Gulf countries, Bahrain at that time, had the pleasure to listen to the report of the UN in Bahrain. So Petro, you did fantastic connecting to the academia. You always pretend you are not a good academic, but you are the best academic. You always try to be humble, but you are best than us. So he written 7 or 8 of the UN report, including e-learning platform. Thank you very much, Petro. We will send you your certificate by post. You have to come and collect it in Tokyo.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Patrick, can we bring Patrick back? Patrick, where is Patrick? Patrick, are you still there?
Yeah.
Patrick, 2-6.
Hello. I'm here. Hello.
Yes. Number one, Patrick is studying now at Heriot-Watt University. The professor he's working with, Professor John Adams. If he, please send him our best wishes. Professor John Adams is one of the first founder of the WSD. If we can give him a big round of applause from here.
Right.
Was started in Edinburgh. John Adams is one of the biggest people there. And 2 things about you with the adult. Let me just quickly. He originally wanted to come and present the paper in Morocco. Then few issues in terms of the map between Morocco and Algeria. We couldn't carry the conference. Then we told him, we have another conference in Kuwait. Would you like to do your paper in Kuwait? He said, yes, Alam. He was very resilient. He was very confident on us. Now, things didn't go well in the Gulf. And all American, British said, we will not be going there. The Gulf is now in war, blah, blah, blah. Patrick still stood stand and he said, fine, where is it going to be? We said, in London. But now he couldn't come. But Patrick, I'm glad your paper has been accepted. And I want to give you an invitation now, publicly now. If you come to us in 4 months, we will waive the fees for you. Come and see us in Tokyo.
Right, thank you.
Definitely Tokyo is going to be. So he was so resilient. Anyway, I think we took more time. Yes, where's yours?
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Alam. Now we will handle the certificate to Dr. Rawad. Thank you, Dr. Alam. And we have also Dr. Aladdin.
You already got 2 AI solutions last year. And
I ensure the certificate to Dr. Petro, and
yes,
they will be good. They will get it from Professor Alam.
Yes, and this is for you. For number one, giving us your time, very short time, and for we want you to go and do this, stick it in the Al-Quds University. We have been working very closely with Palestine for many years. We tried to find them many. Thank you very much, Dr.
That's one photo.
Thank you very much for moderating this session. Professor, before you go, before you go, in the afternoon session, when we're going to launch this, the London Institute of Sustainable Development, one of the first program we're hoping to keep this by the early January is an MBA on sustainability, leadership, and public policy. And we are going to look for sponsors to provide it free of charge. MBA is very expensive here. We want to do it free of charge for the countries on war, including Palestine, Sudan, and Ukraine. And you will definitely be one of our very basic people. We hope we can get this done very soon. Okay, so please, we can prepare the next session. Yes. We're going to
Thank
one
you.
session before you are. Thank you very much.
This is the logo of the Quds University. Really happy to present that for years.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we go to the next one. Do you want to take a quick break, or I think we finish this session and go for lunch? Okay, then yeah. Foreign Affairs from Spain. The director of the European Union was a woman. Gail Rigobert, the Minister for Science and Technology. So we always advocate. So we have a very strong advocacy and a portfolio for women. And Professor Suhair Neil here in front, she's the first I told her, in UCL, they say the first gynecology, very complicated, urogynecology, the first professor of urogynecology. But also, she's the first woman in doing that. She's the first woman in the subject, but she's the first woman. We also have Professor Wafa Saleh from Edinburgh. She was the first woman, one of our founders, the first woman in chemical engineering in this country, for this area. But I'm very proud of what we do. We are very proud of you, not just as a woman, you are a true leader. And I think thank you very much for traveling all the way from India. And she has a tremendous experience. She's one of our partners, and I think the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Alam. I wish everybody a chilly good morning. Now it's turned morning and it's chilly. So firstly, thank you, Professor Dr. Alam and WASD for giving me this opportunity where I can moderate the session and listen to great papers and their work in their field. So the session that I got to moderate is about business, industry, and sustainability. Now, these three are becoming the most inseparable forces, and the companies or the universities are now told to rethink about how they operate, not only thinking about sustainability as a sideline issue, but it is becoming the main agenda for the companies, industries, or the universities, where we are talking about carbon footprint, where we are talking about circular models, and we're talking about how manufacturing and production can be more meaningful and can have a long-term impact and effect on our coming generation. So looking at this, we would like to start with our first session. I would like to call upon Dr. Randa Dia Bahman from American International University, Kuwait, Dr. Abrar Al-Anzi from Gulf University of Science and Technology, Kuwait, Dr. Safia Aftimos from Australian University in Kuwait, and their topic would be sustainable business practices, corporate reputation within an Arab context within a multiple stakeholder group. So can I have them? Are they online? Oh, yeah. Hi, welcome.
Thank you very much. I won't elaborate.
Okay.
I try to be as quick and as I can. And if I do I get bonus points for bringing you up to date? There you go. All right. So thank you very much for this. Of course, Dr. Alam, thank you as always. You always manage to really take care of the details and always put us in perspective and connection with one another. So I thank you very much for that. With that being said, let me go back one step. All right, so of course, what used to be a notion or, yes, sorry. What used to be, by the way, hey, can you put sustainability as part of this? This is now essential. This is no more of a, oh, please, could you do this for me? And as Dr. Bassam early in the morning has rightfully given the advice of, would you kindly speed this up as well? So in my world, which is the business, I teach business at the American International University, I was confused because if I do that, and again, Dr. Demetrio as well reiterated, the fact that it needs to be, we need to take care of what we're doing immediately to our society and how we're embedding sustainability into that, as well as making sure it's culturally appropriate, if you will. Now, if I take that into perspective into my field, there's no journal that's going to publish it. Correct me if I'm wrong, because it doesn't really have a grand scope. Oh, in Arabia, we do this and that. But if I go to the Q1 and Q2s, I need to have a bigger scope. So Dr. Demetrio, 2 years ago, whilst I was confused, I attended one of these sessions, and one of his main objectives was, why don't you look at the different angles you can bring it up within your respective field? So my respective field was business, and I thought to bring it up as opposed to the conventional, oh, direct relationship to your immediate society, if you will. I thought, why don't we talk about, instead of culture, let's talk about contextual. Why don't we contextualize this? Now, this takes me up on a macro level. And once I contextualize this, perhaps people will start paying more attention. So I looked at CSR, and mind you, you might see distorted bits and pieces because it's a much larger project than what you see here. This is one of the maybe chapters, if you will, where we're looking at corporate reputation and how CSR could potentially be embedded in a contextual way. So we broke it down into corporate reputation building through two lenses, the CSR, conventional CSR, and ICSR, which is the Islamic CSR. Now, in conventional research, we see ICSR more related to ethics. We look at it from an ethical perspective and whatnot. There hasn't been much research, particularly also in the Arab world, that tells us or gives us an indication of how that may be an implication, whether positively or negatively, towards reputation. Now, you might say, well, you probably, shot yourself in the foot because you're looking at it from an Islamic point of view, but I want to reiterate how many clusters of Islamic or religiously dominated groups you have, either here in the UK or well abroad. So British Journal of Management, here I come. That was their first question, and that was part of the scope of the work that we decided to broaden our approach on. So CR, corporate reputation, and CSR, we need to contextualize them. That was the initial approach. I'll be quick. If you'd like to read this, obviously it will be part of the proceedings. And we do have a couple of papers that are published in under the scope of work. So we're looking at CSR and ICSR equals CR. Islamic religiosity is multidimensional, it's non-binary, as opposed to what the literature may say. If you ask the question in a very direct way, do you pray 5 times a day, which is a component of the Islamic religion? Everybody's going to, sure. So to avoid these kinds of biases, or at least to lessen those gaps of bias, we looked at proxies of religiosity. You can look more into that if you choose in the paper itself. So we chose a large telecommunication company headquartered in Kuwait. It's got a vast MENA outreach, and it's got strong CSR activities. Where is Dr. Yes, you did mention that we have a problem with collecting data. And mind you, I just bang my head against the wall every time I went in. This was chosen because it's one of the largest and has done some CSR reporting in the past, not because they particularly choose to, but because they are under several different regulators nationally and internationally. So you tend to see that when we have the larger companies in Kuwait. So the sample may not be that big, however, in comparison to the company and their reach. However, it's a good start. It's an exploratory study. And we looked at the different measures, again, CSR, ICSR, and then we saw room for potential moderators, which was through advocacy, which may implicate advocacy intent, which are the proxies we use to measure reputation. We looked at emotional appeal, different drivers. Again, the framework is a bit more complex. You're going to have to go into probably the intricate details, but that will be available to you, inshallah, once we get the proceedings. The overall findings is that CSR initiatives contribute positively. We looked at two stakeholder groups. We looked at the customers and we looked at the employees. Moderate to high levels of trust are observed among stakeholders. They show positive attitudes and willingness to engage. Corporate reputation helps build trust, and that's a very big indicator of religiosity, which is tied always to the Islamic religion. How do we know that? We had to reach out to a whole other arena, which is the religiousness and whatnot, and somehow tie it back to our original maybe narrative of what is considered ICSR away from the ethics and usually the more financially inclined conversations. Cross-stakeholder insights, both customers and employees showed positive intent, both value ethical behavior. Employees show stronger support and lower distrust. Obviously, they know more about the company. Customers have weaker identification and slightly more skepticism. CR is value and belief loaded, especially in the Arab world. Religiosity shapes how stakeholders interpret CSR in action. It may moderate the link between CSR, trust, identification, and satisfaction. In this telecom company in particular, CSR must be aligned. Oh, this is what we got from the overall stakeholder group with service quality and innovation to avoid skepticism. This extends the theory, CR theories, by integrating religiosity within the ICSR spectrum, emphasizes a multi-stakeholder experience-based point of view, shows that CSR reputational impact is mediated by trust and emotional appeal. Now that's a big, it might sound small here, but that's a big finding, if you will. Just because trust is part of the value system within the Islamic group. Now that's not to say it's only embedded within the Islamic group, but that's one of the higher priorities that we saw through the literature reviews. But that also goes to say that any cluster that has a religiously dominant feature must be looked into in its own contextual right. All right, implications. This is, the eye opener. Actually, when we sent it out to review, at some point, not this particular one, but on a macro scale, one of the reviewers, of course, this was a Q1 journal. We're all scared to see what the reviewers are going to say. One of the reviewers pointed out that, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is not just contextual within your on a national level, but again, this is much more impactful. So, great that you brought in that field. And I must say, sustainability does cover that. So if you do get stuck somewhere within that equation, if you will, trying to figure out how to better embed research and contextualization, look at the broader pictures that the SDGs and sustainability altogether bring to the surface or to the conversation. Whilst we examine religious CSR cues within Arabia, there are plenty of Muslim-dominated religious clusters. This brings a whole new perspective to ICSR. Away from simply the Arabian perspective, the question that I'd leave for you to consider is how could stakeholders' religiosity be taken more into consideration, particularly in religious holidays, maybe even something that is outside of their scope of religion, like Christmas, like what other perhaps more European conventional holidays pertain. My name is Dr. Randa. I am available on social media if you'd like to follow my work. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Randa. This is a new topic to me too. Trust me, I've studied a lot in CSR, but religiosity is the word that I'm going to take back home, and I'm going to study more on it. Is there any questions? Yeah.
Thank you. I work in ESG in a company in the UAE, so very interested in this. But I wondered if anyone and any of the stakeholders you spoke to had any questions or comments around the language in particular. I find, particularly in the Middle Eastern context, there's a real push to kind of move away from CSR, is that how we frame some of these topics, and to frame, particularly in the corporate context, the conversation around responsible growth, risk mitigation, opportunity maximizing, that kind of stuff. And I wondered if that was something you came across at all through your survey.
Absolutely. Two iterations of pilot studies. Some of these findings are very interesting and really helped us tailor the methodology and the questionnaire itself. So first thing was, oh, this is way too long. We did a couple of focus groups. And of course, it was like 18 questions. Okay, this is too long. Wait till you see my PhD. But no, this was one, one of the primary barriers was also the lingo that we were using, because it pertained to religiousness and that subjectivity of it as well. We literally had to look into this other scope of work, which is more, I'd say, philosophy related as opposed to CSR or ESG related, and that's where those proxies helped us tie it all together. Now, of course, a proxy is a measure which could potentially explain, it's got its own subjectivity, but it can't be binary at this stage. But yes, back to answer your question, those key words, if you will, from the ESG world were not very helpful.
Any more questions? Yeah, thanks. Keep it short.
Thank you so much. I like the presentation very much. And I have just one question. Do you think the integration of AI could facilitate this sustainable business practice in your study? No.
No, I didn't say no. I'm thinking this is, when you were up here talking, I said, I saw in my eyes a cash sign. You know how you're automating these types of ESG reporting and whatnot? This is exactly what I need on my part of the world, let alone the fact that we don't have much information. So whatever is on the net, I will take, so that I can perhaps have some kind of indicator until I figure out, on the ground, like people like me who are working towards closing up that gap between what I could count as ESG reporting or indicators and what's actually coming up. So yes, of course, AI, it will definitely help me. It's just a matter of, again, contextualization and bridging that gap between what's already out there in terms of information and what, mind you, that's what the UN is using to give me my new goals or SDGs or suggest to Kuwait, for example. And sometimes I look back, and this is why I like to be part of these conversations. I look back and say, where did you get these numbers? Because on the ground, it's a whole other ballgame. And, could you clarify? And within that conversation is when I get in trouble. So yes, I'd love to use your ESG indicators, and AI will definitely help.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
With this, we have our next presentation by Shad Mohammed. I think he's going to go online. He's offline. Shad Mohammed from Sohar University. He's online, I think. Yeah. And his topic would be sustainable leadership and its impact on sustainable performance. Yeah, Shad, you're there.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Prof. Alam, today. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Today, I will present my research paper titled Unlocking Sustainable Performance, the Dual Role of Organizational Learning and Psychological Safety Under Sustainable Leadership. So, as the Asian nations are working towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, they face many challenges. And one of these challenges is sustainable performance. As we know that the Asian has a culture for manufacturing. Also, the issue of sustainable development is growing increasingly, especially in the Asian area, especially in the Gulf region. Because the Gulf region, they rely heavily on energy for their economic growth. So this is highly associated with carbon emission and pollution. Moreover,
Moreover, these nations are growing urbanized and motorized, and this situation poses a true challenge for the sustainable management of the sustainable management of the environment. Moving forward, so what is the gap or the problem this research addresses? So there is a lack of clear understanding of how sustainable leadership practices influence sustainable performance within organization. Moreover, there are many external circumstances that require an organization to closely monitor their environment, such as global warming, migration, also cultural differences, and technological advancement. Finally, also there are many external pressures that do not come only from the market, but also it comes from the NGOs and the governments that make sustainability a growing necessity for growth and survival. So what is the purpose of my study? So today's practitioners and scholars growing increasingly recognizing that sustainable leadership is a powerful way to address sustainability challenges, also to provide insights on how leaders can enhance sustainable performance through learning and supportive work environment. So what previous studies have already established? So previous studies focus heavily on the long-term value creation, also ethical behaviors and the integration of social, environmental, and economic responsibilities. Also, past studies have explored sustainable performance, highlighting that when sustainability is embedded on the structure of an organization, this organization will benefit from this. But still, the literature lacks clear understanding, and there are very limited research on how sustainable leadership practices directly influence sustainable performance. And there's also a very important point that I want to clarify is that my study focused on two important theories. The first theory is called NRPV theory, Natural Resource Based View theory. So basically, this theory sees that learning and leadership are very rare and very important organizational resources. And the other theory is called dynamic capability theory. This theory focuses on the ability of an organization to adapt to change. Moving forward, so key relationships from the nutrition. So there are many key relationships in the literature that shows how sustainable leadership practices influences sustainable performance. And these relationships, I will explain them in a while. These relationships also form the basis for my theoretical framework, which I will explain next. So as we see, we have, let me use laser pointer. So as we see, we have 6 important relationships. Okay, 4 of them are direct relationships, and 2 of them are indirect relationships. So SL is for sustainable leadership, OL for organizational learning, and PS for psychological safety, and SP for sustainable performance. I will explain all of this in depth. So this is my theoretical framework. Okay, we have, as we see here in the structure, we have 4 important variables, which are sustainable leadership, organizational learning, psychological safety, sustainable performance. I also have 6 important hypotheses. 4 hypotheses, these ones are direct, and 2 hypotheses are indirect, okay? So hypothesis 1 is that sustainable leadership has a positive impact on organizational learning. Hypothesis 2 is that sustainable leadership has a positive impact on psychological safety. H3 is that organizational learning has a positive impact on sustainable performance, and H4 is that psychological safety has a positive impact on sustainable performance. Then these are the direct relationships, okay? Then we have two indirect, which are that organizational learning and psychological safety. These two work as mediators in my theoretical framework. So organizational learning mediates the relationship between sustainable leadership and sustainable performance, as we see, it's here in the middle. And then psychological safety also works as a mediator. It mediates the relationship between sustainable leadership and sustainable performance. So moving to methodology and research design. So to test the previous theoretical framework, I used a quantitative approach. And to analyze the data, I used both confirmatory factor analysis and path analysis using SEM. SEM is for structure equation modeling. So if someone asks me what's SEM, SEM is basically an advanced statistical tool that is used to test relationships between many variables in the same time. So instead of just testing one variable at a time, just like we do in regression, this SEM or structure equation modeling, it tests the whole theoretical framework in one time. So to collect the data, I used questionnaire surveys and I distributed them to employees across various industries and sectors in Oman. And regarding the sampling technique, I used two sampling techniques. The first one was convenience sampling through HR managers and systems, and the other one was snowball sampling by asking those people to refer their questionnaire to their social to fill it. And out of 600 distributed surveys, I was able to collect 315 valid responses with a response rate of 52.5%. And the data collection period was between June and November 2024. So this is a very important slide. Please pay extra attention to it. So this is a picture for the results from the structure equation modeling and the path analysis. So first, I looked at the relationship between sustainable leadership and the other variables. Okay, so the result shows that first, sustainable leadership has a strong positive impact on organizational learning with a beta coefficient of 0.641. So what does this mean? This means that when leaders embody ethical behaviors within organization, this will enhance the learning practices within this organization. Then we found that sustainable leadership has a significant impact on psychological safety with a beta coefficient of 0.311. Beta coefficient, beta is used to test the strength of a relationship. So the higher the beta, the stronger the effect, okay? So sustainable leadership has a positive impact on psychological safety. Beta coefficient is 0.311. So what does this mean? That it means when leaders create a secure environment, this will help employees to perform their task with comfort and confidence, and they will also be able to share their ideas. Then we found that both organizational learning and psychological safety were found to be strong predictors for sustainable performance. Organizational learning with a beta coefficient of 0.519 and psychological safety with a beta coefficient, it was significant, but it's a bit less, with the 0.203 beta coefficient. And finally, I tested the mediation effects, which are, as we said before, organizational learning and psychological safety. So the mediation effect of organizational learning was 0.27, and psychological safety contributed another 0.15. So what are the implications? First, starting with theoretical implications, so which means how does my study will contribute to the existing academic knowledge. So this study demonstrates that both organizational learning and psychological safety are very essential in turning capabilities that translates leadership into sustainable performance. Also, the study extends the natural resource-based view, which I said that my study is based on these two theories, and also dynamic capabilities theory by identifying sustainable leadership as key strategic resource. And going to the practical implication, so how does this research can be used in real life? So organizations should develop sustainable leadership skills through training programs that emphasize ethics, long-term vision, and social responsibilities. Moreover, firms should encourage continuous learning by promoting knowledge sharing, collaboration, and innovation across departments. There are also many more implications, but as we have very limited time, so that's why I decided to mention only two of each one. So going to the conclusion and future research. So to conclude, the study highlights that leadership behaviors, when aligned with sustainability goals, can build learning cultures and safe workplace that drive long-term success. Also, it emphasizes that the importance of human-centered approaches in achieving sustainability in emerging economies like Oman. And finally, it suggests that organizations should invest in leadership development and create structures that promote learning and openness. So regarding future research, I will recommend to first test the model across different countries or sectors, not just Oman. Also use longitudinal data to observe changes over time. And also I will recommend to explore additional variables such as green innovation or employee engagement. Thank you so much. All questions are welcomed. And last but not least, I would love to bring this. Please keep eyes on Sudan, as Sudan is going through one of the worst humanitarian crises. Please keep eyes on Sudan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any questions from the audience? I think you were so clear and so precise. We really don't have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shad. So with this, we move to our next paper. It's by Dr. Tejroy Naipaul and Dr. Saulak from International Executive School, France. And their topic is Challenges and Opportunity for Islamic Banking and Finance in the Commonwealth Caribbean. Yeah. And along with these two, there is two more authors, Eli Dehar and Ronnie Azhar. They're MBA students from their university as well. So yeah.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Welcome you. Oh.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for being here. Today, I will be presenting my research on challenges and opportunities for Islamic banking in the Commonwealth Caribbean. My name is Eli Daher. I'm a PhD candidate at the International Executive School in Strasbourg, France. This research is particularly timely, as the Commonwealth Caribbean grapples with persistent financial exclusion and seeks innovative pathways to achieve the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Exploring alternative banking models has never been more urgent. Just briefly about my background, I'm a certified public accountant with extensive experience in accounting, auditing, and financial advisory across multiple industries. What drew me to this research is the intersection of theory and practice. As both a practitioner and a researcher, I'm less interested in what's theoretically possible and more focused on what's actually feasible in the real world. This study was supported by a grant from the International Executive School and approved by our institutional review board. I have no conflicts of interest to declare. What you will hear today represents the unfiltered perspectives of Caribbean banking executives, the people who would actually determine whether Islamic finance takes root in this region. What is Islamic banking? Before diving into my findings, let me establish what we are actually talking about when we say Islamic banking. Because this is often misunderstood and understanding the fundamentals is essential context for what comes next. Islamic banking operates on fundamentally different principles from conventional banking. At its core, it prohibits interest, what's called riba in Arabic. Instead, profit comes through trade and investment in real economic activity. It's built on risk sharing between the bank and the customer. So rather than a creditor-debtor relationship, it's more of a partnership. All financing must be asset-backed. Money must be tied to real assets, real services, real productive activity, no speculation. And there are ethical investment screens. No investing in alcohol, gambling, or other prohibited activities. The key difference, it's a partnership-based rather than debt-based financing. Now, concrete examples of how this works in practice. Mudaraba is profit sharing. Murabaha is cost plus financing. The bank buys an asset and sells it to you at a markup. Ijara is essentially leasing. And here is something critically important. Islamic banking is not just for Muslims. It operates in many countries worldwide, including here in the United Kingdom, which has a well-established Islamic banking sector serving diverse populations. The opportunity. So with that foundation, let me frame the research problem. Islamic finance has experienced extraordinary global growth over the past 2 decades. And this expansion isn't confined to Muslim-majority countries. We're seeing Islamic finance take root in remarkably diverse markets: the UK, Malaysia, South Africa, Kenya.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt you. The slides on your presentation aren't moving. Could you, if you press the bottom right corner, the presenting slide, it should bring it up, but at the moment it's still stuck on the title slide.
Maybe you stop sharing and share again?
Yeah, if in doubt.
Like for the opportunity, right?
Because it's still on the title page.
On the
Yeah, if you stop sharing the screen and then try sharing again, hopefully it should work and fix the problem.
I stopped sharing. Okay, sharing, and now
Yes.
it's okay now. You can see the slide, the opportunity.
Yes, but could you change the slide once just to make sure that it is moving?
It's okay.
Yes, it doesn't seem to be on the presenting page. What we can do instead, on your actual presentation page, your PowerPoint page, it is moving. It's just on your presenting slide, it isn't. So if you could, when you speak, just stay on the page that you're on right now. And as it moves, we can see it move right now. Yeah, that's perfect. We can see
it's
it.
Okay. It's okay now. Okay.
The problem is when he clicks presentation mode, it doesn't share the correct screen. So this is the closest. Okay, this is perfect. Thank you so much.
So I can continue now. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. During the financial crisis, Islamic banks demonstrated notable resilience. Their asset-backed risk-sharing model proved more stable than many conventional approaches. So here's the question that drove this research. If Islamic finance is growing globally, has proven its stability, and operates successfully in culturally diverse markets, why is the Caribbean virtually absent from this movement? That's the paradox I set out to investigate. So this is slide 5, the paradox. You can see this slide. It's okay.
It's working perfectly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it's a paradox because the Caribbean actually has strong structural alignment with Islamic finance. The region has well-established Muslim communities in Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, and Jamaica, communities with deep historical roots going back generations. The Caribbean faces persistent financial inclusion challenges. Significant portions of the population remain underserved by the current banking system. And there is clearly demand for diverse financial options, particularly alternatives that emphasize fairness, transparency, and social responsibility. Yet, despite all of this alignment, Islamic banking remains relatively unexplored in the Caribbean. Minimal institutions discussion. So the region exhibits seemingly ideal conditions for Islamic finance. Yet Islamic banking, or practically non-existent, understanding why required going directly to the decision makers. Question was straightforward. What are the challenges and opportunities for Islamic banking in the Caribbean? But I wanted to answer this from a very specific perspective, the perspective of the people who would actually make it happen, senior banking executive. So here's my method. Contextual insight, not just quantitative data. I interviewed senior banking executives from across the Caribbean region, people of the Chief Compliance Officer, Chief Financial Officer, and Chief Operations Officers levels. I used semi-structured interviews, which gave me the flexibility to explore issues as they emerged while maintaining analytical rigor. And I analyzed the data using thematic analysis, a systematic approach to identify patterns across qualitative data. This research was approved by the Institutional Review Board at the International Executive School, and I followed all ethical guidelines for research with human participants. Finding 1, my analysis revealed 4 clear themes. Let me walk you through the first finding. Finding number 1, the absence of clear regulatory frameworks creates institutional paralysis. Now, this is critically important to understand correctly. The executive I spoke to were not opposed to Islamic banking, not at all. What they articulated was uncertainty about how to proceed within existing regulatory structures. Listen to this quote from a Chief Compliance Officer in Guyana. It's not that anyone says we can do it, but no one knows what to do, so we just don't. That captures it perfectly. This is not opposition. It's paralysis from regulatory ambiguity. Banks want to serve their clients. They see the potential, but they operate as a highly regulated industry, and they need clear frameworks to work within. Without those frameworks, the compliance risk is inadvertent missteps outweighs the potential benefit of innovation. So they wait, and waiting becomes the institutional default. This reveals something important. Regulatory clarity could unlock rapid movement. The hesitation isn't philosophical, it is procedure. Finding number two builds on the first. Systemic knowledge gaps limit institutional readiness. I found pervasive gaps in understanding of Islamic finance principles across banking organizations. And critically, this is not just frontline staff. These gaps extend into senior management. Islamic finance is often reduced to no-interest banking. The assumption is we simply don't charge interest, problem solved. But that fundamentally misses the operational complexities, the distinct product structures, the underlying philosophical foundations. Here's what one banking executive told me. There is confusion, even among management, about the nuances beyond no interest. We need deeper education. The implications are significant. Banks can't serve interested clients effectively if their staff don't understand the products. They can't evaluate strategic opportunities if they don't understand the business model. They can't innovate if they don't understand the underlying principles. But here's what's encouraging: this is addressable. Targeted education programs can close these gaps. Strategic partnership with established Islamic finance institutions can build capacity. This is not an unsurmountable barrier. It's an opportunity for strategic intervention. Now, finding number three was perhaps my most significant discovery. The values-based appeal of Islamic finance extends well beyond religious identity. Islamic finance principles resonate broadly across Caribbean population, regardless of faith. Consider the core values: fairness, transparency, risk-sharing, community focus. These aren't exclusively Islamic values. These are universal human values. These are deeply held Caribbean values. Listen to this quote from a chief operation officer in Barbados. If you frame it's a fair, responsible way to do finance, it connects with Caribbean values regardless of faith. This finding is transformative. It means Islamic banking needn't be positioned as a religious product serving only Muslims. It can be positioned as ethical finance that happens to be grounded in Islamic principles but appeals to anyone seeking financial services aligned with values of fairness, transparency, and social responsibility. Consider how this reframes the market opportunity. You're not targeting a small religious minority. You're potentially appealing to a much broader market of people seeking values-aligned financial services. This completely changes the conversation about Islamic banks' commercial viability in the Caribbean. And that brings me to finding number four. Fintech reveals that demand already exists. This was genuinely eye-opening. I discovered that young Muslims in the Caribbean are already using Islamic fintech platforms, just not local ones. They are using apps and services from the UAE, from the UK, completely bypassing local financial institutions. Here's what a chief financial officer in Jamaica told me. Young Muslim clients are already bypassing local banks, using UAE-based Islamic fintech apps. Now consider what this reveals. First, demand isn't theoretical, it's empirically demonstrated. People are actively seeking these services right now. Second, digital delivery models are clearly variable. Customers are comfortable using fintech for Islamic banking. Third, there is a market capture opportunity for local institutions. International providers are currently serving this demand. Local banks could recapture these clients with appropriate offerings. And fourth, this suggests a low barrier entry strategy. You don't need extensive physical infrastructure. Start with digital pilots, test the market, build institutional expertise, scale based on evidence. This finding transforms Islamic banking from someday maybe to customers are already doing this, just not with us. That's a fundamentally different strategic conversation. Let me synthesize the key takeaways from this research. First, Caribbean banking executives see genuine potential here. My conversations were not characterized by skepticism. They were characterized by curiosity, interest, and strategic thinking. Second, the barriers I identified are addressable. Regulatory clarity, targeted education initiative, and strategic partnership can all advance this agenda. These aren't unsurmountable structural barriers. They are solvable implementation challenges. Third, Islamic banking represents an additional pathway for financial inclusion and economic development in the Commonwealth Caribbean. It's not the only solution, but it's one more evidence-based tool for addressing financial exclusion and building economic resilience. Finally, this is among the first empirical investigation of this topic in the Caribbean region. I'm not claiming to have all the answers. I'm opening a research conversation. Much more work is needed: legal compatibility analysis, consumer demand studies, economic viability modeling. But we now have empirical evidence from the people who would actually implement Islamic banking that this warrants serious exploration. Thank you for your attention. I welcome your questions, a perspective. If you'd like to discuss this research further, my contact information is on the screen. I'm eager to engage these researchers, policymakers, banking professionals, or anyone interested in exploring Islamic finance in the Caribbean context. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. It was a good input.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that there's great work being done in the financial sector in the Caribbean. So any questions to this study? Ellie, you've got to be concise, okay? There's a question for you.
Thank you for your presentation, and really an area for my research interest as well. I just would like to ask you one simple question for like we as a Muslim, for example, we have our faith in applying Islamic banking system and we do follow that. How can we justify or bring up some competitive advantages of Islamic banking for the countries like US where we have different kind of complete financing systems? So can we provide some kind of platform or some advantages that they can also look into the positive aspect of Islamic banking? That's the only question I have. Thank you.
Your question is for United States, right? So in United States, as you know, all financing must be asset-backed. So the money must be tied to real assets, real services, or real productive activity without speculation. And I think in United States, it will asset-backed in investing on housing or something in housing loans.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ellie. Maybe she can connect to you and get a better and a more elaborate perspective. For the last presenter, I know you all are famished, you're feeling hungry, for just one last presentation. It's by Professor Dr. Anuj Kumar. He is from Rushford Business School, Switzerland, and his topic would be driving growth with purpose, how SMEs can achieve business success through the SDGs. So he's here. So the stage is yours.
1 second. This was the presentation this morning. Yeah, it's a different one. That's why. I'm sorry. 1 second. This one. This one.
Hello.
We don't have a ticket.
First of all, thank you very much, President Dr. Alam Ahmed and WASD for giving me this opportunity to speak about sustainability and its linkage with the SMEs. SMEs is my area, my PhD work is on adoption of online resources in SMEs. So let's understand the purpose. The purpose, SMEs are the backbone of global economies, yet their engagement in UN Sustainable Development Goals remains fragmented. SMEs, small medium enterprises, is contributing 30% of, if I talk about India, to their GDP. SMEs are contributing 55% when I see the GDP of United Kingdom. SMEs are contributing nearly 43% of the GDP of USA, and SMEs are contributing 50% of the GDP of Australia. So if we talk about business growth, we cannot ignore without giving importance to SMEs. The targets of UN Sustainable Development Goals cannot be achieved, and SMEs often perceive SDGs as a distant or a complex due to hidden and invisible power dynamics. So the purpose of this paper is to analyze how SDG can function as a moral compass and a strategic framework to enhance the performance, to competitiveness of SMEs. What are the challenges in front of SMEs? The challenges, the first and foremost challenge is the reach is very, very limited. Secondly, they don't have that much investors, and their brand reputation, their marketing, their resources at one stage, they are competing with multinational organizations, but they don't have that much amount of resources, brand reputation, marketing, people, and all such things. So will the alignment with SDG can help them in overcoming these weaknesses? So through my research, I want to propose a conceptual framework. Later on, we will work on empirically to test the applicability of that framework. So the crux of this presentation is that framework and the 4 components of that framework. So the methodology, I said it is based on, right now, it is more of a review work, the first stage or the preliminary stage of this paper. The study adopts a systematic literature review from a paper published between 2015 to 2025. A few of the articles which talked about SMEs and SDGs in recent time are mentioned on the right-hand side of my slide. All these articles were published when I'm talking about SDGs and their relation with SMEs. All these published after 2023. So the topic is very, very novel, and more research has been expected on this topic. Like this is one of the research recently happened in 2024. The researchers revealed that SMEs engagement with SDG is significantly affected by power dynamics, cognitive distance, and the perceived globalness. The crux is this perspective suggests that SMEs SDG relationship cannot be fully understood based only on economic and resource-based explanations. It requires attention to the socio-political and institutional forces as well. Another literature, the researchers illustrates in 2021 how cluster management organizations can provide SMEs with shared sustainability tools, joint learning platform, and sector-specific SDG evaluation. The cluster-based approach underscores the importance of meso-level infrastructure beyond the individual firm. What we are seeing, mainly the controlling is all is done by an individual. So we have to go beyond that. If we have to integrate SDGs with SMEs and the macro level policy environment, we need to take care for facilitating SME engagement with global sustainability frameworks. Next. And the third research seminal paper, the research in 2024 shows that SMEs increasingly depend on the partnership with a diverse set of stakeholders, local government, educational institution, NGOs, and supply chain actors. What the study highlights that SMEs benefit most from partners who share a commitment to sustainability awareness, collective culture, and long-term vision. Such partnership can serve as a catalyst for SDG-oriented transformation and helping SMEs to overcome internal capability gaps, adopt new technologies, and navigate sustainability-related institutional pressures. Next. So what are the shortcomings which are acknowledged by these researchers? A significant portion focuses on barriers, while other highlight enablers such as technology, collaboration, and leadership. If SMEs will align themselves with SDGs, more will come from technology side, and there will be more from leadership and collaboration. The existing framework often treat SDG engagement as a compliance or reporting exercise. So more work needs to be done. So what is lacking? This is the big point. This is one of the important slides. The big question, what is still lacking is the consolidated conceptual framework that integrates micro level and meso level, network and cluster, and the macro level. These three levels come to integrate together so that SMEs can effectively operationalize the SDGs. Contribution of this paper, as I told you in the beginning, this paper addresses this gap by proposing an integrated conceptual model. As we have limited time, so I'm coming to the components of the proposed model. So SMEs, if aligned with SDGs, what it will bring: strengthening their internal capabilities, engaging in collaborative and institutional networks, and reducing cognitive and structural barriers. So first, contributions to the literature. It bridges the theoretical divide between sustainability as performance and sustainability as purpose. Secondly, it can advance understanding of mechanism, SME sustainability transition, moving beyond traditional firm analysis. And thirdly, it positions SDGs not merely as a policy guideline, but as a strategic framework. SDGs should not be limited only to the guideline. We have to bring it as a framework to improve operational efficiencies, access to new market, increase financing of opportunities, and enhance customer trust. Now, as I told you just 1 minute ago, what are the components of the conceptual model which I'm working on for SMEs and SDGs alignment together? The internal capability drivers, the factors influence SMEs' ability to interpret and implement SDGs, SDG awareness and purpose orientation, digital transformation and data capabilities, leadership commitment and sustainability culture, and resource availability. If we work on these things for internal capability of SMEs, then they will align more with the SDG goals. Network and collaborative enablers, which we talked about, meso level. So what things are required? Cluster management organization, multi-stakeholder partnership, and peer collaboration and knowledge sharing network. So these are the two components, and the next two. And the next two are power dynamics and institutional condition, external forces that shaping SMEs engagement, visible, hidden, and invisible power structure, policy, environment, incentives, and regulatory framework, and cognitive distance between SMEs and global sustainability agendas. and SDGs integration mechanism, mapping SDGs to the business model, identifying material sustainability priorities, using digital sustainability tools, and embedding SDG indicators into operational planning. So these are the 4 components. Based on these 4 components, we have given a model. Outcomes when SMEs successfully integrate SDGs. If SMEs are able to integrate SDGs, what will happen? The operational efficiency will improve. As I told you initially, what are the shortcomings of SMEs? Operational efficiencies, access to new market, improved financing opportunities, investor interest, enhanced customer loyalty, strong brand reputation, innovation, and long-term resilience and sustainability performance. So whatever the shortcomings of SMEs are, all the shortcomings can be overcome if we take care of its alignment with SDGs. We have to take care of at 3 levels: meso level, micro level, and macro level. So this is kind of diagram which I'm proposing, just working on that, still in the working phase. Next. So the findings of this research said, finding highlights 3 key insights: internal capabilities such as leadership commitment, digital literacy, and sustainability awareness are crucial for SDGs adoption. Collaborative mechanism, first and foremost, is we have to create internal capabilities. Second, collaborative mechanism, including cluster management organization and multi-stakeholder partnership. And institutional and power dynamics shape SMEs' engagement with the SDGs. So on these 3 levels, they have to work if they want to integrate SDGs with SMEs. So this study, the original value of this study contributes to the expanding discourse on sustainable entrepreneurship by positioning SDGs implementation as a strategic growth mechanism rather than a philanthropic undertaking. And this research offers a synthesized conceptual roadmap linking SDG orientation with measurable business performance. It extends existing frameworks by showing that SMEs SDG engagement improves when supported by collaborative infrastructure and value-driven strategic alliance. When we talk about new research or novelty, even if you just search the literature or the previous publication on SMEs or SDGs alignment, not even 10. So first of all, the area is good, and I invite the researchers who are working in SMEs area, if they want to align SMEs and SDGs, they are most welcome to work with me because the scope is very, very wide in this area. So the practical implementation, the SDGs are not only exclusively intended for large corporations. We have to come out of this myth that SDGs are only sustainable development goals are only for large organizations. They are equally important for SMEs as well. SMEs also benefit significantly from adopting SDG-driven strategies, embedding SDGs into SMEs models, and hence, what I told before, attract more investors, the trust and faith with stakeholders, participate more effectively in sustainable value chains. So that's it from my side. I hope I was on time, and as per time given. And this is my profile. I met this great gentleman firstly offline in Spain. So this is our memory from Spain. So thank you very much, all of you, for patiently.
Thank you, Anush, for that presentation. It was very good. A lot of things to take away for the small scale industries. Any questions by the... No, all are hungry actually now.
I don't want to be a
Yeah. So thank you, Anuj. And thank you all of you for being a patient listener. The Professor Alam will just take you 2 minutes. Since I've been moderating the session, that excitement I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Nishu Edi, and I'm the founder and CEO of Confab 360 Degree. It's a company that works for the universities and collaboration of universities in different countries. So globally, we work for them and we upskill all the academicians and we connect researchers from one point to the other. So anybody who is interested can work or contact me. And thank you, Professor Alam, because we met him in this process in Spain conference, and he's been an absolute gentleman for having us here and giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
She finished before the time we gave her. Can I say something? I remember 2004, Professor Soni Lawako, our director of research here at East London, we were traveling to a conference in South Africa. At that time, it's called Elizabeth Johannesburg, and then you travel. I can't remember. Anyway, and he found me until 7 o'clock in the office printing, doing. I said to him, "What are you doing here? You're supposed to go and rest tomorrow. It's a long flight." And I said to him, "Soni, I need to bring the slides. So in case the presentation doesn't go well in South Africa, I have slides." Conferences are not about presentation, are not about everything is done, proceeding, publication is about network. And I remember this when I was a junior, I was a senior lecturer a long time ago. And I believe, where is Professor Garcia? Yes, last time we met 2017, right? 8 years ago. And in South Africa, we met one of our founding members, Professor Laniti Lowe, who is now one of the key people of WST in Africa. So conference is really about networking. My slogan is always, I said this is Saudi Arabia, and they're all laughing. I said, 2 measurement. You know you have done well in this conference. If you come with 100 business cards, you go back empty. And second thing I noticed, people, they start tonight, we will go to the dinner, a long conversation. And then after a long time, can I have your card? Please swap this card quickly. Why do you bring this then? That's number 2. So number 3, I think very important. I said to you this one. After lunch, we will show it to you. We're very proud. I'm not here to grade, but we're very proud. Our outlook is being, just tell me, really, I'm confident. Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, California, Yale. Where is the Yale people from? Yale University. Cambridge, we have some of them everywhere. And one day, I remember this very well, our information manager at Sussex University, I was going stopover in Qatar to go to Saudi Arabia. And I gave a lecture in the Doha Institute, and then I went back to the airport. At that time, the war between Saudi Arabia and Qatar, I found our book in the National Library of Qatar about transforming UAE economy from oil-based to knowledge-based. So you can see our books managed to break even the political discussion. So all your publications, they go, and they all scope us, and they are everywhere. Yes, you go and look anywhere. We're confident. In South Africa, you'll find them. And the beauty of this book is very much multidisciplinary. We had the dean of from Malaysia one day in London, our conference, and he was in this room. No, not this room, another room. And he said this is the first time in his entire life, he's a dean of faculty of law, he's sitting in a conference next to people from public health or doctors. He said it never happened to him for his entire life. And this is the beauty of this WST. That's number 1. Number 2, the diversity. We are very, very proud. Professor Laniti Lowe from South Africa, our textbook are taught here at Oxford. Top class people. And we are very proud. Professor Beverly Anderson, she might be watching us from California. Whenever there is something in the Middle East or anywhere, she was the first one to volunteer. One day she went and represented us in Jordan. So the people who come to WST are very diverse. We are very proud of them. And where I end up with the medical school, Professor, she will see her tonight, Professor Farida. Farida is one of the top professor of medicine and oral medicine in this country. And many people ask me, what are you doing in the dentistry school? Because Farida and our provost for health, he said he wants Queen Mary to be aligned with SDGs. The medical school want to be. So this is the kind of, this is WST essence. We like academics, we like those who are just purely academic, but we like more those who are not just purely academic. So anyway, I want to finish. Publications are, please, all dedicated. I have seen 7 or 8 papers already completed. One of them was the one who spoke earlier. So this is taken care by Kenita and our team. And secondly, the way we do it, it took us time. We published in the proceeding, and then we will publish in our special issues, 2 top journals, all of them 5 stars. Maybe they were surprised. We will find young, senior, and tomorrow, I know you all know them, but professors from BBC School, Kotler is going to speak. And Kotler has been a very fan of WST. Professor Philip Kotler I told him this. I don't want to make him all. I said to him, I studied your textbooks when I was doing my MBA. Don't tell me when, very long time ago. And then when I finished my master and I did my PhD, I've been teaching marketing in East London, in Sussex and here, using his textbook. I know his textbook even more than him. This man, he likes WSD. If you read and listen to Kotler talking about his critique of the United Nations, you'll be surprised. This guru of marketing, he understands the whole world. He's so critical of how the UN failing Ukraine and others. So this is the kind of people, you will see him tomorrow. He replied to email. He always follow WSD. When we have the early morning, he said, Alan, but this is in Florida, it's too early for me. You will hear him tomorrow. On the last day, you will have the mayor of Sussex. He's coming to us, one of the best diaspora in this country. He's a great man. So we involve politicians, we involve private sector, and so on and so forth. Anyway, I don't want to keep you long, but please enjoy the networking. Make sure you know each other. Before we go to we give the certificate, we go to the lunch, try to prepare yourself. We are on time. The lunch is next door. If you want to go outside this building to see, because I think you have a sun now. It's very rare here, by the way. Please, your card will allow you. So when you come down, you don't have to even to go to those things. You just pass them. So this will allow you in and out. But please, please, please make sure maximum you are 5 or 10 to 2 here. If you try, this is an island actually, surrounded by water. So you can go and see. That's the door, by the way, where we're going to have the dinner. So you can't miss it. That's where we're going to have the dinner at night. Let's see it there. I mean, if you're going to swim, but otherwise you take the train. So let's give the certificates. So, Victorenda. Thank you very, very much. She's going to chair the session as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And yes, oh, Anuj, Professor Anuj here. This is for Anuj.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Are we allowed to take it? The university, they said anything more than 50 pounds or less. Thank you very much, Anuj. Really wonderful. And the thing you said about SME is really. This is he presenting his master on digital media from the top brand development studies, Sussex University. Top professional. And this should tomorrow because she's speaking to us tomorrow. So I think we need to
need some of your time because.
This is, thank you very much. This is Maribor University in India.
Yeah.
17 hours, right? Or very long place. People invite us.
That's how we collaborate.
So now, no, we're going to have to go to the lunch now. Next, we will want to eat quickly.
This is proceeding will be next.
Oh, that was a wonderful. By the way, Professor Manuel, you know when he said to me that university? Yeah. Believe it or not, I was there 30 years. I didn't know the second oldest university in this Europe is actually in Spain. Thanks to these people when they invited me, Salamanca University. Anyone from Europe, I strongly recommend you go and have a break there. Fantastic. Thank you very much. And this is a special. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. So we go for lunch, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you want to go out, I encourage you. Yes, you can stop, but please come here before 2 o'clock. And this will allow you in and out. I think you want out. Legal, you can get in and out. Yes. Tomorrow, I think it's a